Gabriel Fahmy.
All signs point to another 75 basis point hike, and most investors have already come to terms with that. The job market continues to be strong and inflation high. Though the Fed is facing political pressure to slow the pace ahead of the midterm elections, with government worried about a recession and people losing jobs, it's unlikely to deter central bankers who've made it clear their goal is to bring interest rates well above 4% by year's end. They're currently sitting at 3%, and next week's is the second to last meeting of the year, with a final one planned in mid-December.
And it'll be a big week at Twitter now that Elon Musk is in charge. His $44 billion acquisition of the platform on Thursday led to the immediate firing of key executives, including the legal counsel who authorized the suspension of Donald Trump's account. The EU's Internal Market Commissioner Thierry Breton is warning Musk to abide by the bloc's digital rulebook, as FSN's Rosie Burchard reported on Friday.
After Elon Musk tweeted, "The bird is freed," the EU's internal market boss responded with a simple message. In Europe, he wrote, "The bird will fly by our rules." Breton is referring to landmark European Union legislation set to kick in from 2024, which will force big platforms like Twitter to police online content and crack down on disinformation, demanding more transparency from the firms.
In the coming week, we'll see whether Donald Trump gets that Twitter account back. We'll see who wins the second round of Brazil's presidential election. And we'll see whether British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak reverses his decision to stay away from the COP27 climate change conference in Egypt. And that is the Week in Review from Feature Story News. Simon Marks reporting.
The NFL announces a new zero-tolerance policy on videotaped domestic violence. A puzzled nation can remember the name Ferguson, but is not sure from where. And a man wearing an M&M jacket is apparently made in God's image. This is the Onion Week in Review. Tech giant Apple unveiled a brief, fleeting moment of excitement to the general public. The short-lived, ephemeral sense of wonder was released in front of an exclusive group of reporters and industry insiders at Apple's Silicon Valley headquarters.
Apple really made us wait, but this rapidly diminishing glimmer of pleasure was totally worth it. It was 100% better than any other temporary joys I've ever experienced.
And in this week's local news, an uneasy détente forms between a man sitting on a patio and a bee. In other news, a poll finds 80% of Americans would get in a vehicle with a stranger for a chance at a new life. Bank of America introduces a new $50 underdraft fee, and the nation's huggers announce plans for you to get over here.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
And we're back. Where did we go?
I went home for the week.
We went over there.
From here to there.
We went from here to there.
Hither to yon.
And then from there back to here.
Over yonder.
Yonder. I love that word. I don't know why I love the word yonder. It's just great. Anyway, it's Free Talk Live. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. The telephone number here is 603-283-6160. Why am I giving you a telephone number? Well, because this is a call-in show. So if you want to participate in tonight's episode, the Sunday night edition of Free Talk Live, please call 603-283-6160. Captain's log, stardate 10302022. I had to make the mental adjustment there on the numerical click in my head.
Yeah.
It's almost Halloween. It's almost Halloween.
Is that tomorrow? Amateur night, as I like to call it.
Depends where you are in New Hampshire, because they trick-or-treat at weird times around here.
Yeah. Well, I thought amateur night was the night after
St. Patrick's?
Thanksgiving.
That's
because all the college kids come home and they all get trashed.
There are several amateur nights throughout the year. St. Patty's is one of them.
Yeah.
Definitely. Thanksgiving is also a amateur night. Black Friday, amateur night. And then, of course, Halloween amateur night. Now, what do I mean by amateur night?
Please, I don't know.
So growing up in Wisconsin, drinking is part of the culture.
Yeah.
And so there are people who drink a lot and frequently. They build up a tolerance, and these are known as professional drinkers, so to speak. Not in the sense that they get paid, but just that they're experienced and they know what their tolerance is, know what their limits are. They wait long enough. They start drinking water before they drive home a couple hours, kind of thing. Whereas amateur night is people who don't drink on a regular basis, who don't know their limits, and don't have any sense of when they've had too much. And they only go out a couple of times a year, and they get way too drunk, way too fast, and they're the dangerous ones, in my opinion.
Fair.
So that's what I call amateur night. Also, the young, people who don't, regularly go out on these holidays, and then you mix them in with the older people, and then it becomes amateur night, is what I'm saying.
So what you're saying is start them young, so they can build that tolerance by the time they get to that age.
I mean, that's a personal decision for each individual. And
this is not medical advice, but start drinking young.
And their family to make. So, but yeah, you get more reckless drunks on some of these drinking holidays than you do on any other, say, weekend night.
Okay. Is Halloween a drinking holiday?
It is.
I would say so.
There's
a lot of Halloween parties.
A lot of people dressing up and hitting the punch too hard, and
it's a kid's holiday.
No,
it's for trick or treating,
so much, man. It's supposed to be.
So kids trick or treat, and adults drink.
At costume
apparently.
parties. Yeah, they dress up in costume. Right. Now, I mean, combine the amateur night syndrome with costumes.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, it makes it great.
I have seen people who dressed up in full regalia, but then puking on themselves.
Amateur night at the Furry Palace.
Someone was dressed up as Bender. They built a cardboard and tinfoil Bender costume, and so they've got the whole thing on. Yeah, from Futurama, and they got the whole thing on, and they've obviously had too much, and you just see the box kind of wiggling back and forth, and we're like, what's going on with Dave, man? And then he takes the thing off, and he's just covered in puke, and it starts running down from the inside of the helmet onto his cardboard box, and it was disgusting.
So now I need to share a really cool costume I saw earlier.
Right.
Some guy constructed this forklift costume out of cardboard, and they were playing Flip Cup. And he used the forklift thing for the flip cup, and he made it.
What the fork?
Yeah, it was great.
The two costumes that I've been compiling for years that I've never actually gotten to wear out on Halloween. Casey Jones from the Ninja Turtles and Jack Burton from Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh, yeah. That'd be good.
Right?
That'd be good. The best costume and the last costume I ever wore to a Halloween costume party was that of a referee, specifically an NFL referee. And I got
to be blind the whole night.
Well, so here's what happened. I bought the striped shirt and just a black, baseball hat, and I just printed out the NFL logo on some colored paper and safety pinned it on so that it had the look. But I went to Target or something, and I bought some red washcloths and some yellow ones. So I had both of the colors of flags for the official, and I bought a real coach's whistle.
Wow.
Right? And so I go, and it started off as great fun. Right? Somebody would, accidentally spill somebody's beer. I'd blow the whistle, throw a flag.
That's great.
Hey, penalty on this guy, 2-drink penalty, repeat first beer or whatever, that kind of thing. And then, things took a turn for the worse.
When you had to throw the challenge flag?
I drank a lot.
Oh.
And so I got a little, shall we say, carried away with the whistle and the flags and that kind of a thing, to a point where I had to be asked to sort of stop doing the thing. And in fact, I caused a penalty by flagging a penalty. So
that's a double penalty.
Yeah, somebody almost spilled a thing, and I threw the flag, and I ended up spilling 3 things from the flag hitting the things that it shouldn't have gone anywhere near where it did.
Almost like it was amateur night.
Almost like it was amateur night. Yeah, indeed. So that was the last time I did a costume, but it was great fun up until a point.
Yeah.
And then I was like, sorry guys, I got a little carried away with the referee costume. What were we talking about? In the studio tonight, it is me, the Lord Reverend Dr. Captain Kickass Buckshot Esquire, if you will, joining me.
It's Nikki.
And Richie Rich.
I should stop saying probably talk about whatever we're going to talk about tonight. Don't you think?
Let's do the headline rundown.
Do a rundown?
No, I mean we could get into it, but
well, let's talk about
coming up next.
Well, coming up right now.
Okay.
Biden's marijuana lie.
Boo.
Yeah. I mean
that would
I feel
be a
like
good costume.
Biden.
Yeah. It's a good amateur night costume.
Oh, yeah.
Rolling around on the floor.
Am I supposed to go this way?
Maybe in the old folks' home or something. So many of you know that President Biden did a press conference thing where he said, hey, I'm going to pardon a bunch of marijuana things.
Hip, hip, hooray.
And everybody jumped for joy.
And then it did nothing.
And then nothing happened. Exactly. Nothing happened. The headline from Reason.com. Biden's marijuana pardon did not free a single federal prisoner or deliver the expungement he promised.
Why not?
It's a good question, right? Because you would think, here comes...
It's the question. He did a thing.
President.
What did the thing he do? What did the thing he did do?
A protest on the White House calls attention to the thousands of federal cannabis offenders who remain incarcerated. And for those of you, that are visually unable to see this picture, there's, I don't know, what was that?
Bung.
I heard a ding.
It was me. I'm guilty. I'm sorry.
All right. Thank you.
It has been silenced.
Thank you for, claiming the ding. This photo is, a dozen people or so, all holding a giant marijuana cigarette as they parade down a street. And the printing on the side of the marijuana cigarette says, "Quit Biden our time."
Nice.
That's pretty good.
It's just a prop marijuana cigarette, right? They didn't have that much weed.
They might.
I would assume it's a prop.
Okay. All right.
There is some sort of smoke coming out of the end of it, though. So
Mighty
it
joint.
looks like it, yeah.
Maybe they had a fog machine, like they
That'd
have
be
on
cool.
stage for musicians or whatever. Edwin Rubis has served more than 2 decades of a 40-year federal prison sentence for participating in a marijuana distribution operation. Taking into account good time credit, he is not scheduled to be released until August 2032.
Well, there you go, because he was distribution.
Hold on.
Okay.
Rubis is one of about 3,000 federal prisoners whose cannabis-related sentences were unaffected by President Biden's mass pardon for low-level marijuana offenders. A protest at the White House today called attention to the predicament. Biden's proclamation applied only to U.S. citizens or legal permanent residents convicted of simple marijuana possession under the Controlled Substances Act or the District of Columbia Code, none of whom was still incarcerated.
Which is why I thought the expungement was valuable, because then it's off the record.
There's obviously more to this story, and we'll get into it here on Free Talk Live, the Sunday night edition. The telephone number 603-283-6160. Do you think people should be incarcerated for marijuana? Let us know. More Free Talk Live is next.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do. I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
And we're back.
Yes, we are back. Sometimes we're side, sometimes we're front, but right now we're back. And this is Free Talk Live. The telephone number is 603-283-6160. If you'd like to join us in the studio, it's myself, the captain.
It's Nikki.
And Richie Rich.
We've been talking about Joe Biden's marijuana lie.
Sleepy Joe.
Why do I call it a lie? Well, because he said he was going to pardon a bunch of people. And
is it a lie, though?
Well,
yeah.
There was quite literally no one to pardon.
Okay. That's different, though.
No, it feels like a lie.
Anybody who fits this criteria is pardoned.
And there was no one to fit that criteria.
It's deceiving.
That's not his fault. Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
like if there was someone who fit the criteria, they would have been pardoned.
And also in his defense, like he didn't really do any of this.
Right.
You know, he's not. It's hard for me to believe he's even a real person.
It's the deep state.
Yeah.
Although the pardons could benefit as many as 10,000 or so individuals, that represents a tiny percentage of all simple possession cases, which typically are charged under state law.
Okay. Yep, that's the kicker.
And Biden's actions will not release a single federal prisoner. So basically, he came out and said, if you're in federal prison for, possession of marijuana, we'll let you out. And there was exactly 0 of those people.
Okay. Then he can come out and say, look, they've already been released. There's none left.
I'm so progressive. Like, they were already released by the time. So, I mean, like, is that senility?
Sneering in the background.
Is that senility, right? No, he's got a team of people who put this all together. It was just a PR speech to raise, like, people who, like, maybe want to vote for him in the upcoming election. That's all it was.
There are some theories that the Democrats peaked a little early for the midterms. They're losing some momentum as we get to voting day.
Yeah. According to a 2021 report from Recidiviz, more than 3,000 individuals are currently serving marijuana-related sentences in federal prison. The report estimated that ending federal marijuana prohibition, a step that Biden has steadfastly resisted, would reduce the federal prison population by more than 2,800 people over 5 years. Your recent executive order, while a great first step, did nothing to address the thousands of federal cannabis prisoners currently incarcerated in federal prison. That's a quote from 16 drug policy reform groups from October 10th letter they sent to Biden. While your recent executive order will help many, it will not release a single one of the nearly 2,800 federal cannabis prisoners.
Okay, hold on. Mm-hmm. Who is it helping then? If it didn't release any, but it's helping some of them, right? Then it did something.
Well, I'm wondering if it's the expungement that,
Sure. I don't know.
But is that actually happening?
That's a great question. It will, blah, 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 blah. Although 18 states and the District of Columbia have legalized cannabis, the letter said, there are thousands of Americans who are serving long-term prison sentences, including some life sentences, in federal facilities for conduct involving amounts of cannabis that are far less than what dispensaries routinely handle on a daily basis. I think the difference here is that there are people in federal prison for cannabis violations that have been prosecuted by the state, not the federal.
Yeah.
I think that's the key to remember here.
You would think, so if a state legalizes cannabis and cannabis sale, you would think all of those people would immediately be released.
No, they don't. That does not happen.
It just doesn't make sense to me.
It does not happen. It did not happen in Washington State when I lived there. What happened is they legalized marijuana. They opened a bunch of recreational marijuana stores and all that kind of thing. And then they were like, oh, yeah, and we're going to tax everybody at all three levels, right? Distribution, growing, and retail. And then the politicians are like, no, we're actually going to have to raise that tax because we misbudgeted, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it's like 70% or something ridiculous.
I ran the numbers just of the marijuana prisoners in Washington State alone at $31,000 a year to keep them there. And I said, the next time that your politicians need money, once you release all of the prisoners in Washington State for these marijuana charges and take your money from there, you bastards. Sorry.
So I'm not against releasing them.
Yeah.
However, it would if you're saying like they should be released because it's no longer illegal.
Yeah.
The inverse would also have to be true then. Like you would have to convict people for new laws that become illegal.
Not necessarily. Because they need to be caught and prosecuted.
Yeah.
So, I mean, once
I don't understand what you're saying.
The court case is done, it's done.
I'm saying if you're prosecuted for something illegal, like this was not allowed and you did it, and this is your punishment. Right, if you're going like, well, it's allowed now, so you're no longer punished, the inverse is true. So something that is now legal that you then do, and there's a record of it or whatever, that then becomes prohibited.
Give me a
but
real
also,
example.
I mean, when you think about it this way, like sometimes somebody will get proven innocent for something they actually did that was illegal. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I've seen people get, like, they were obviously drunk driving, but then they got proven innocent because the judge, whatever, had mercy or whatever. I've seen real cases where the judge was like, I know you were doing it, but whatever, I'm going to find you innocent. So.
Texting while driving.
Okay.
Texting while driving at one point was fine, and then they criminalized it. But if they had, like, some, old video of you on some surveillance camera from a few weeks prior to the prohibition going into effect, and they got you on camera texting and driving, well, now it's illegal.
You want it retroactively instituted? I mean, maybe.
All I'm saying is to be consistent, right? It would have to go both ways.
I don't think that necessarily would be consistent, though.
It would be consistent.
Also, too,
so.
I'm talking about like victimless crimes here, right?
Sure.
Or non-violent crimes, right? Which
texting while driving.
Most people in jail for marijuana, there's no violence involved.
Understood. That's why I say I'm not against letting them out, but to justify it,
I'm just saying if they want more tax money, right? These states that have legalized it, the first place that they should look is releasing all of their marijuana prisoners.
Okay.
And that's how they would get, at $31,000 a year, that's a hefty chunk of money.
Yeah.
The moral logic of Biden's distinction between simple possession and other marijuana offenses is puzzling. He says marijuana use should not be treated as a crime, yet he's willing to let individuals like Rubis languish in a prison for merely helping people use marijuana, which today is recognized as a legitimate business in 19 states, which allow recreational as well as medical use.
But still
if you
not
pay
on the federal
taxes. I think that's the big difference, too.
Yeah.
People who are selling on the street aren't paying taxes.
Well,
but the dispensaries are, there's a lot of tax revenue.
Right, but they
from
didn't
that.
have the opportunity to open a dispensary
because they were in prison
until it was legalized in each of these states, either medically or recreationally, or both. The puzzle is compounded by the fact that Biden has acknowledged the injustice of long prison terms for growing or distributing marijuana in particular cases. Last April, he announced 75 commutations for federal drug offenders. The beneficiaries included 8 people convicted of marijuana offenses. And they go on to list the people here. We won't get into that, but there's more to talk about here. Plus, we've got your calls and thoughts coming up on the Sunday night edition of Free Talk Live. 603-283-6160.
It sounds like a truthful deception.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks with the Week in Review. And the week ended with shock across America over the attempted killing of Paul Pelosi, husband of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. He was attacked by an intruder at the family home in San Francisco in the early hours of Friday. The assailant faces attempted homicide charges, and there is evidence on his social media accounts that the assault may have been politically motivated. Ro Khanna is a Democratic congressman from Nancy Pelosi's home state of California.
We have to understand that social media has consequences. My understanding from preliminary reporting is that the suspect had problematic conspiracy theories on social media. There should be a review whether there was any incitement to violence there.
He spoke on MSNBC. Mrs. Pelosi was in Washington, D.C. at the time of the attack. Britain got another new Prime Minister this week. Rishi Sunak moved into number 10 Downing Street after becoming the only candidate in the race to succeed Liz Truss. On the steps of Downing Street, he made his first speech in office.
It is the greatest privilege of my life to be able to serve the party I love and give back to the country I owe so much to.
But he was quickly in political hot water over a decision to reappoint Suella Braverman as Home Secretary. She had resigned the post just 6 days earlier after disclosing she'd used a private email account to share government documents. In Washington, President Biden told a Diwali celebration that Mr. Sunak, the first British Asian to become Prime Minister, had broken an important glass ceiling.
Pretty astounding. A groundbreaking milestone, and it matters. It matters.
Russian President Vladimir Putin insisted he has no plans to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine. He accused the West of engaging in nuclear blackmail. FSN's Sergio Olmos spent the week in Kiev, where there were widespread power cuts after the latest Russian attacks.
They've impacted more than 40% of Ukraine's electrical capacity. You see people cooking with candles on or headlamps.
The U.S. economy grew by only 0.6% in the third quarter, adding to recessionary fears. President Biden, days away from midterm elections, insisted the economy is strong and, despite polling to the contrary, predicted voters will move in the Democrats' favor in the remaining days of the campaign. And the world of music is mourning the loss of Jerry Lee Lewis, who died on Friday at the age of 87.
Come on over, baby. Whole lot of shaking going on.
A stunning performer, not without controversy in his personal life, he burst onto the scene in 1956 as Sun Records in Memphis was looking for the next Elvis. He was nicknamed The Killer and described himself as being possessed by the devil's music. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
And we're back.
We are back, and this is Free Talk Live, and the phones are packed. And
what did we say to cause all that?
If you're trying to call and you're getting a busy signal, please keep trying. The telephone number is 603-283-6160. In the studio, it's myself, the captain.
It's Nikki.
And Richie Rich.
Let's, without further ado, let's go to Jerome calling from North Carolina. Jerome, you're on Free Talk Live. Jerome?
Is this a technicality?
No, I don't think so.
You guys are always picking on Joe Biden and the Democrats. Okay.
Whoa.
Oh, now we got an echo.
Big
Captain.
delay. What? I'm a heavy metal singer.
Hello?
Oh, that was Jerome.
Wow, we're all got a big... Hang on, Jerome. Let's try Dan in Ohio.
Hello.
Hey, Dan, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, thank you guys for having me on.
You're welcome.
What's on your mind?
I decided to talk about the economy and Joe Biden, if you guys don't mind.
Go ahead.
Joe Biden has caused this economy to, crash more than what Trump did. Trump had this economy on a stable market and had the...
Did he, though?
And had my... He did, though.
There's still a little bit of an echo.
The reason that I made about $1,000 almost every single day in Bitcoin. I've been feeling good.
Hey, Dan, do you have a radio on in the background?
Oh, yeah, I'm just listening to you guys.
Can you, turn that down a little bit?
Also, what does Donald Trump have to do with Bitcoin?
The economy was booming under Trump, and Bitcoin was booming.
Booming.
I don't feel like the economy was booming.
I don't think it was either.
Gas prices were low.
Okay. But the value of the dollar still was steadily dropping, as steadily as it ever has since before I was born.
Though, that's where I keep my little.
Say that again.
I made so much money in the stock. I made so much money in the stock market though when Trump was president.
Did you?
Yeah, I put a lot in my 401k. Feel good. I could go on a vacation, and I'm almost a senior.
My 401k is depleted as well.
Well, also about Joe Biden.
Almost a senior in what?
High school.
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry, Dan called yesterday twice, both during Free Talk Live and Beard Talk Live.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was unaware.
And he
does. You guys have a great show.
He does sound like he's really stoned.
Okay. Hopefully in a legal state, otherwise you got to get yourself on that Joe Biden pardon list.
Yeah, right?
Well, Missouri is debating about having marijuana legal.
Yeah. Well, good. In fact, it should be... states should not have to legalize marijuana. All that should have to happen is they just make marijuana no longer illegal.
Okay.
Yeah, but...
actual decriminalization instead of this fake decriminalization that some of these states claim, like New Hampshire, for example.
Yeah. And let's talk about Saudi Arabia also.
What about it?
What are you guys... Do you guys think that the king or the prince is in the wrong for wanting to increase his hate for gay people, or...
I know nothing
I think
about what you're
that's
talking
terrible. I don't know too much about this, but I did see something in the news about the Taliban murdering a gay medical student.
Yeah. I mean, I think just having any sort of ruler is a bad idea, including kings and queens and presidents and even mayors and all that kind of stuff. I think that is all a horrible way for people to interact with each other. I think people are much better off interacting with individuals on a one-on-one voluntary basis. If you don't want to do business with a person or an organization, you're free to do so. They're free to not do business with you as well, and that's just how the world should work. And mankind would be that's a far preferable way to organize mankind.
And since you guys are libertarians, do you guys think that the age of consent should be decreased?
I don't even think it should exist, to be honest.
Yeah.
Honestly, I agree with that. I agree.
I think it should be, the thing with ages.
I'm glad Nikki said it.
Right, yeah. I can say these things. But the thing with age is it's like you can have two people that are the same age and they can be developmentally so different,
I know like 40-year-olds that are like not even close to being of age of consent, so to speak, when it comes to like their mental capacity or their decision making, their ability to function as an adult. But then I know like some younger people, or at least when they were younger, 15 years old or so, that were like way more functional, way more responsible as people than like anyone their peers' age, or much less some people who are like middle-aged.
I think it should just really be a case-by-case basis. And obviously when you get into like actual children, like, 5-year-olds, like obviously that, that shouldn't even need to be said, that would be wrong with an adult and a child. But
let me jump in ever so briefly and provide the example that I've been providing libertarians in the area in person.
Okay.
Have you ever held a baby that did not want to be held by you?
Yeah, it sucks.
Babies love me.
Maybe. But at some point, you're going to hold a baby that does not want to be held by you.
Right.
And you can view that as non-consensual.
Yeah, so you put it down, give it to somebody else or something.
So even babies are capable of giving consent and withdrawing consent, whether or not they're able to verbalize that in whatever local language you happen to be speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to read those non-verbal cues about what someone is or is not consenting to is far more important than some arbitrary age put upon it.
I can get down with that. Hey, Dan, thanks for the call. We appreciate it.
Yeah. So what do you do with that baby that doesn't want to be held by you?
Put it down, give it to somebody else. But it's like if it's your kid and you're trying to console them, it's like,
what do you do?
Let's getting complicated.
Let's move on. Let's try this again. Jerome, are you with us?
Yes.
All right.
Libertarians, that's just a fancy made up name for Republicans in the closet. They hide in the closet. That's all that is.
What makes you say that?
Republicans in drag.
What makes you say that?
Because they talk like Republicans. That's why, especially when it comes to this election stuff. The Sousa says the election was rigged, and then when you put them on TV, you say, "Okay, here's your forum. Tell us where you got. Show us your proof." Well, this is what.
I've never heard a Republican advocate for ending the state.
Hey, did you see William Barr? Did you see his interview?
No, because I don't pay attention to Fox News or CNN.
Said it was BS. He said Trump's election talk was BS. Well, there's a whole lot of BS out there because I just watched some from people from Arizona. They tried to get them to lie so that they could take votes away from Biden.
Yeah. So Jerome, hang on for just a second. There's something called a uppercase L libertarian. And that is, a politician who is running for, with the party, the Libertarian Party, the political party. And then there's lowercase l libertarians who are the philosophers, who are, the ones who want to be left alone.
Or around here, run as Republicans.
Well, I mean, because
there's a libertarian caucus within the Republican Party here.
That is true, but that's only because it's easier to get on the ballot.
I haven't heard anything about that on the Democrat side.
It's easier to get on the ballot if you run as a Republican.
Oh, okay.
Because you have to.
Because you have more in common philosophically with those people?
No, the way it's stacked up against the Libertarian Party to get enough people, enough votes, enough signatures to get on the ballot.
Should be easy enough to put a D next to your name then, and they don't.
Well,
a few people have.
Yeah, I think a few people have.
A libertarian is a sellout. Okay.
Hey, Jerome, do you want to hang on?
Just-
Do you want to hang on?
Yeah.
All right, stand by.
Yeah.
We'll bring you back. 603-283-6160. Jerome's not done ripping on libertarians yet.
Neither am I.
Let her rip.
Just be careful of the flatulence. 603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live is coming up.
There is no such thing as attention span, according to Jerry Seinfeld, who figures that people have an infinite attention span if you are entertaining them. Hey, he's kept us from channel surfing for several decades, and now he's making more millions as a Las Vegas headliner. With money and attention so scarce now, effective communication skills have never been more important, especially if you're looking for work. So choose every single word as though it was the last word the person you're speaking to will hear. Otherwise, it might be. Avoid redundancies such as added bonus, advance warning, end result, prior history, or personal belongings. And avoid cliches like the plague. Just kidding. For more tips, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Free Talk Live.
You can tell by the way they're dressed, by their demeanor, that these are illegal. Okay. Do you understand that they bring in leprosy and tuberculosis?
Oh, God, here's the leprosy. Show me the news story about leprosy and not some crackpot website.
Do you understand this is our country and this is about our children?
Wait, stop the jingoistic crap. You're picking and choosing. You're saying that a bunch of murdering, raping lepers are coming across the border.
Oh, yes, they are.
No, that's nuts, Trish.
There's a leprosy colony.
If that was the case, then in fact we would all know about it. I mean, it sounds like the night of the living dead down there at the border, and they're just coming across looking for the brains.
You think CNN and Fox News is going to tell you this? You got another thing coming.
Why wouldn't they? It'd be great for ratings.
By design, it's meant to bring this country.
Oh, now there's a conspiracy behind it, right? You're going to tell me the NWO's behind all this?
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
This is the part where we build up to it. Climbing that hill. And we're back.
Yes.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
603-283-6160. That's the telephone number here at Free Talk Live. We're a live radio call-in program where you could take control of the airwaves, talk about whatever's on your mind. In the studio, it's myself, the captain.
It's Nikki.
And Richie Rich.
I have to tell you before we get back to Jerome and whatever the hell he's trying to say about
take as long as you need
libertarians, that Bitcoin.com is the best source for learning about cryptocurrency. You can go there now and click on Get Started at the top of the page. When you do that, you'll find all sorts of valuable information neatly organized to suit your needs. There's no longer any excuse to ignore this important and world-changing information. If you're already knowledgeable about crypto, you can check out news.bitcoin.com and get the latest headlines of all the news that's relevant to you. Bitcoin.com is your source for everything crypto, like getting a wallet, mining, trading, and all the latest cryptocurrency news, all on a slick and easy-to-use website. Please visit bitcoin.com. All right, let's go back to Jerome. Jerome was saying things like, let me paraphrase, libertarians are just Republicans in disguise or something like that?
Yeah, they're just a bunch of sellouts. Hey, let me ask you this. Who's the governor of New Hampshire? Because I saw, I was watching Meet the Press today, and I saw a guy named Sununu on there.
That's the guy.
Yeah, we call him Flununu.
Or His Excellency, if you will.
What a simp that clown is.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
What a sellout.
We agree.
What a two-faced. He's there. Chuck Todd was asking him, why are you supporting, you are knocking people that are election deniers, and yet you're throwing your support behind a guy that's an election denier. Explain yourself.
Yeah, Jerome, it's even worse than you think. Jerome, it's even worse than you think. He actually refers to himself as His Excellency.
Oh, I thought that was a joke.
No, it is not a joke.
No, that was on the official documents.
That is true. It says, from the office of His Excellency, Governor Sununu.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Hey, does he know what the word nepotism means? Because I know that's how he got.
Well, it's not like we know him personally or anything. Like, we hate him probably more than you do.
Yeah. Wasn't his daddy like some big politician up there?
I haven't been here long enough.
I have no clue.
Actually, I think you're right. I think his dad was also held the same office that he does, and I think his cousin or something also, or his brother or something also holds an office. Yeah.
Hey, you talk about
absolutely.
Corrupt.
Yeah, every state is corrupt.
Hunter Biden, you talk about nepotism.
Well,
did we mention anything about nepotism with Joe Biden?
No, but Jerome is trying to, put words in our mouth. Of course.
Oh, straw man.
Okay.
Yes. What a two-face that guy is.
Joe Biden? Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
No,
also,
I'm
he's
talking
senile.
Sununu, Governor Sununu, Governor Nepotism.
Well, is Joe Biden also not two-faced?
Look.
No.
You don't like,
let Jerome continue because he's tearing down the governor, and we don't care.
You don't have to tell. Yeah, I know you don't like Biden, man. I know you don't.
No, I said the governor.
Okay.
I don't like Sununu either.
Hey, if you don't like the governor, why don't you move then?
Well, where are we going to move?
Yeah, I moved here so that I could actually participate in helping to eliminate something known as the state.
When you going to run him out of office? You're not too successful at that, are you?
No,
not yet.
Not yet. It's a tricky situation even for the libertarians.
Yes,
because if you vote Sununu out, you'll get marijuana legalization,
right,
and an income tax.
Going anywhere.
And it's
hey Jerome, this is supposed to be a conversation, Jerome. So if you can't stop talking over us, then I'm just going to let you go. Go ahead.
I'm not saying I support him, but that's usually what eventually comes up, right? Like marijuana legalization passes, he vetoes it. So if you get rid of him, you'll get your legalized weed, but then you'll have a Democrat in charge, and when they bring up the income tax, sales tax, that'll get passed.
Right.
And so you'll trade like legal weed for more taxes.
Right.
And so he stays in office to barricade him against that.
Yeah, what Jerome doesn't understand is, you got to vote the bastard out. Well, how did the bastard get in there in the first place?
Someone voted him in.
That's right.
So,
So clearly it's working.
How about I just don't want any bastards at all telling me what to do? That's what I want. Yeah. And there's not a way for me to do that, including voting.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I could care less about who's in office. I don't vote. I don't care. I do whatever I want, and I don't care what any politician has to say about it.
Yep. And that's the way it should be for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every human on planet Earth.
Like, voting doesn't work.
Right. All right, moving right along. Let's go to, who do we got here? Looks like John in Iowa. John, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hi, how are you guys?
We're good. What's on your mind?
I want to talk about a few things. First is the economy.
All right.
So, obviously, the U.S. economy is not in a great place right now. I do have a few questions for you guys, just to get your opinion on it, I guess. Firstly, who do you? I understood. I'm not sure what your name is, man, but you said you don't vote. Is that's you actually don't vote? You've never voted?
I've voted before, yeah.
I have never voted.
Yeah, I, however, have never voted either.
Really? Never ever?
Never ever.
Never ever.
When's the last time you voted?
The last time I voted was probably in the last election, actually.
Lame.
The last presidential election.
And who'd you vote for, if you don't mind?
I believe I voted for Joe Jorgensen.
I see. Okay, that's interesting. But
next question on the survey. It's typing something in. It's typing in your answers. It's creating a profile on Nikki.
Yeah, preface just this next question by letting you know I am a Republican. I'm
sorry to hear that.
Happily vote.
Wait, so does that mean there's something, such a thing as just a publican?
What? Pardon me?
So the word Republican insinuates that there's something that's known as a publican.
I'm an unpublican.
Nice. Well done. I'm just playing word games with you. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I can tell. Yeah, but serious question on the economy here. How do you what do you believe the best actions we could take to strengthen the value of the U.S. dollar is?
Burn it down. Move on to something better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stop putting your money in Federal Reserve notes.
That's Richie's answer, Nikki.
I like that answer. I might go with that one.
You
Just give up. It's broken.
Okay,
Broken system. Can't be saved.
Yeah, I
just
agree.
like the government.
The mathematics, if you talk to economists and they do the math on it, it's not a question of if there's going to be a financial implosion, but when. And the Federal Reserve and the central banking cartel that exists around the globe are all collectively participating in devaluing of the currencies, creating inflation as to further enslave mankind. So
slow down. He's trying to type this.
Oh, I thought he was a stenographer.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Yeah, I'm a registered court stenographer. No, second question. Aside from burning it down, do you believe that there's what's the best way to handle the massive debt the U.S. has?
Oh, I don't care about that. I was going to say that as far as currency goes, I like the idea of using, gold and silver, gold backs, silver coins as a real currentcy.
Yes. And cryptocurrency fits right in there too, in my opinion.
Sure.
It's decentralized, autonomous. It's not controlled by any government. I don't know what you're doing there, John, but you're making a bunch of clicking noises.
I told you, he's typing in your answers.
No, I wasn't typing there. I just had to adjust my microphone here.
Oh.
Is that a euphemism?
Adjusting my microphone.
I'm sorry,
if you know
guys.
what I mean.
I got to adjust my microphone. All right. What, you got another question?
Well, the question was about the debt, and you guys
the debt. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Here's what we do about the debt. Nothing. It's do nothing. The government already can just print a coin for the total value of the debt and give it to the Federal Reserve. So
which would double the money supply.
Yeah, but the money supply is already going to tank, and we're going to have financial ruin anyway.
I mean, it's not my debt. I'm not in debt.
Yeah,
that's true.
I see.
It doesn't. The number is so unfathomably large that I don't think anyone can rightfully wrap their mind around how large it is.
Right.
Let alone how to ever pay that back.
Yeah.
Like you would pay back a normal debt. So just jubilee it.
Yes.
And be done.
Jubilee is an idea that I'm surprised the central banks and the governments that are in bed with them haven't busted out yet.
Oh, go on, Kanye.
Well, Kanye East.
Yeah,
I'm surprised they haven't busted it out, because that is one of the things that traditionally governments would institute, particularly when inflation and things like that would occur. So, hey, thanks for the call tonight, John. We appreciate you. 603-283 888-6160 is the telephone number here at Free Talk Live if you'd like to join us. More of your calls. And we've got some other things in store for you tonight. Hour number 2 of Free Talk Live is coming up.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
Have you had enough of the big-name web hosting services that are long on promises but short on bleeding-edge features, uptime, and customer service? Try Agorist Hosting, the agile web host that offers full concierge service from website redesign, full e-commerce solutions, custom apps for your Shopify store, IPFS integration, and more. Agorist Hosting is ready to take your web presence into the future. To get started, head over to agoristhosting.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks with the Week in Review. And the week ended with shock across America over the attempted killing of Paul Pelosi, husband of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. He was attacked by an intruder at the family home in San Francisco in the early hours of Friday. The assailant faces attempted homicide charges, and there is evidence on his social media accounts that the assault may have been politically motivated. Ro Khanna is a Democratic congressman from Nancy Pelosi's home state of California.
We have to understand that social media has consequences. My understanding from preliminary reporting is that the suspect had problematic conspiracy theories on social media. There should be a review whether there was any incitement to violence there.
He spoke on MSNBC. Mrs. Pelosi was in Washington, D.C. at the time of the attack. Britain got another new Prime Minister this week. Rishi Sunak moved into number 10 Downing Street after becoming the only candidate in the race to succeed Liz Truss. On the steps of Downing Street, he made his first speech in office.
It is the greatest privilege of my life to be able to serve the party I love and give back to the country I owe so much to.
But he was quickly in political hot water over a decision to reappoint Suella Braverman as Home Secretary. She had resigned the post just 6 days earlier after disclosing she'd used a private email account to share government documents. In Washington, President Biden told a Diwali celebration that Mr. Sunak, the first British Asian to become Prime Minister, had broken an important glass ceiling.
Pretty astounding. A groundbreaking milestone, and it matters. It matters.
Russian President Vladimir Putin insisted he has no plans to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine. He accused the West of engaging in nuclear blackmail. FSN's Sergio Olmos spent the week in Kiev, where there were widespread power cuts after the latest Russian attacks.
They've impacted more than 40% of Ukraine's electrical capacity. You see people cooking with candles on or headlamps.
The U.S. economy grew by only 0.6% in the third quarter, adding to recessionary fears. President Biden, days away from midterm elections, insisted the economy is strong and, despite polling to the contrary, predicted voters will move in the Democrats' favor in the remaining days of the campaign. And the world of music is mourning the loss of Jerry Lee Lewis, who died on Friday at the age of 87.
Come on over, baby. Whole lot of shaking going on.
A stunning performer, not without controversy in his personal life, he burst onto the scene in 1956 as Sun Records in Memphis was looking for the next Elvis. He was nicknamed The Killer and described himself as being possessed by the devil's music. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. It's a big week for investors and consumers in the United States. The Federal Reserve meets in New York on Tuesday and Wednesday with interest rate rises possible. With the preview from FSN's business desk in New York, Gabrielle Farmi.
All signs point to another 75 basis point hike, and most investors have already come to terms with that. The job market continues to be strong and inflation high. Though the Fed is facing political pressure to slow the pace ahead of the midterm elections, with government worried about a recession and people losing jobs, it's unlikely to deter central bankers who've made it clear their goal is to bring interest rates well above 4% by year's end. They're currently sitting at 3%, and next week's is the second to last meeting of the year, with a final one planned in mid-December.
And it'll be a big week at Twitter now that Elon Musk is in charge. His $44 billion acquisition of the platform on Thursday led to the immediate firing of key executives, including the legal counsel who authorised the suspension of Donald Trump's account. The EU's Internal Market Commissioner Thierry Breton is warning Musk to abide by the bloc's digital rulebook, as FSN's Rosie Burchard reported on Friday.
After Elon Musk tweeted, "The bird is freed," the EU's internal market boss responded with a simple message. In Europe, he wrote, "The bird will fly by our rules." Breton is referring to landmark European Union legislation set to kick in from 2024, which will force big platforms like Twitter to police online content and crack down on disinformation, demanding more transparency from the firms.
In the coming week, we'll see whether Donald Trump gets that Twitter account back. We'll see who wins the second round of Brazil's presidential election. And we'll see whether British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak reverses his decision to stay away from the COP27 climate change conference in Egypt. And that is the Week in Review from Feature Story News. Simon Marks reporting.
Today's most popular video games take place in dangerous post-apocalyptic landscapes. But are these games doing enough to prepare our kids for the actual post-apocalyptic future we will all soon face?
Well, I think these games are quite effective at teaching our kids skills like finding shotgun ammo and leading elite squads of super soldiers.
But these aren't the advanced skills that they're going to need. They're going to need the more practical skills like how to find drinking water by collecting the morning dew in human skulls.
Or how to deal with depression when the sun is blocked out for 500 years by a cloud of radioactive dust.
Absolutely. Now, that's the type of knowledge these kids are going to need when their world has been turned into a brutal hellscape.
But these kids said that they know how to find items to barter at weapon shops and how to use medicine packs to heal zombie bites.
The games make it all seem deceptively simple. I mean, in the future, a kid's not going to be able to kill a 6-foot-long irradiated beetle just by pressing a few buttons. And he's going to have to get down there with an axe and hack and hack and hack.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
And we're back. Yes, it is Free Talk Live, the Sunday night edition. The telephone number in the studio, if you would like to call, is 603-283-6160. That number again, 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
It's Nikki.
And Richie Rich.
We've been talking about, well, all sorts of fun things. The economy. We've been talking about libertarian perspectives. We've been talking about some folks confusing Republicans with libertarians and libertarians with Republicans and a little bit of crossover there.
Okay, definitely a lot of crossover.
What else have we been talking about? We talked about Joe Biden and his weed lie, or at least, what did you call it?
Truthful deception.
Truthful deception. Jumbo shrimp. What else we talk about? Anyway, you can talk about any of that or whatever's on your mind. You don't have to talk about what we're talking about.
Because he told the truth. It just, people read it differently than it was intended.
Yeah, it turns out that the pardon and expungement applied to exactly 0 people.
Right. But he did it. He did the thing. It just didn't have the outcome people expected it to have.
Did he or did he not have knowledge of that before doing his conference? I don't know.
I don't think he has knowledge of anything.
I don't think he does either, but whoever put together that speech and that particular...
I'm sure they did.
That particular... Yeah,
he doesn't put on his own suit coat, so...
Yeah, he probably has problems brushing his own teeth, I'm sure. But we are a live call-in show, so let's go to Trevor calling from Arizona. Trevor, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Pretty good. What's on your mind?
So before I get into it, I just want to say I've been listening to the show for like 4 years now.
Wow, thanks.
It literally never ends. So keep up the good work, y'all.
7 nights a week.
Yeah, 7 nights a week.
Yeah.
And then we got Beard Talk Live going on Saturdays.
That's a whole new thing.
Episode 11 was last night. So
you got like 3 extra bonus hours of content each week.
I'm glad that's still happening. I'm glad that's carrying on. That's great.
Well, when you spend money on the logo, you know that's serious.
All right, go ahead, Trevor.
I've been an avid listener, so keep up the good work with that. But getting right into what I was going to talk about, I kind of wanted to talk tonight about this like little recent incident that happened with not my vice president, Kamala Harris. Now, I don't really know if the media missed it or if it wasn't just caught on Twitter or what happened, but I saw basically virtually nothing about this.
Okay.
But Kamala recently came out in favor of spending taxpayer dollars through a budgetary expansion with HHS and HUD on expanding services for the homeless. And let me tell you, I am mad. I live in Phoenix, right? And
you sound furious.
We have a really bad homelessness crisis out here.
Sure.
And due to the lack thereof of inaction, I should say, of politicians, the homelessness crisis has gotten absolutely insane. And so, as a social conservative and a fiscal conservative as well, excuse my language, but I'm a little pissed off. Absolutely.
Okay, hold on for 1 second then, because as a fiscal conservative, is it really the government's role and responsibility to solve this crisis? You said due to government inaction. And I would say, well, I don't want the government to act, and I don't want the government to spend taxpayer money to act.
So, I think it's the government's job to protect our communities. And right now, when we have the horrific fentanyl crisis going on around here, and we have people sleeping in the street and camping out on the sidewalks and raping children, I feel like this is a pretty bad crisis. And if the government's not going to do it, then we should get at least some action from our state legislature, minimally.
Okay,
minimally from our state legislature.
You sound like you're very passionate about this subject. What are you doing to help solve the crisis?
In the last legislative session, I actually worked really closely with Speaker Bowers, who's our Arizona State House Speaker, and the Republican Conference, as well as the Democratic Conference, to try to push for legislative action on it.
You're putting Richard Rich to sleep, bro.
We passed HB 2557, which was this bill that basically ordered
So nothing to actually help any homeless people then?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. So then you're not all that passionate about this topic if you're not.
Well, he wants to get rid of the homeless people.
Law and order. I'm passionate 100% about law and order. I think that's a pretty standard issue. I don't understand what's the issue
ding
with
ding,
law and
right?
order.
The law and order sound. Yeah, that's what we need there. I hear what you're saying. I think you're going about it the wrong way, though. I don't think legislative action is going to have any impact at all on the homeless, other than perhaps making more of them.
So how do you plan to do it? Because right now you're starting to sound a lot like Kamala Harris with this no law and order type of contact, just throwing money at the problem.
No,
and that's not It's not an adequate solution. You can't just throw money at a problem. I thought we already figured that out.
What's the libertarian solution?
I definitely don't want to throw money at it.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
I certainly don't want to throw money at it. In fact, I think Richie Rich was onto it, where it's not the government's job to house people. It's people's job to house themselves.
But it's the government's job to protect law-abiding, tax-paying citizens from the delinquents and degenerates who are homeless,
but that's
running
not
rampant,
true,
raping
because
children in the streets.
If it is their job, they're doing a very poor job of it.
That's why he's complaining.
So how do you
Thank
hold?
you for standing up for me. It's about time someone understood where I was coming from.
Oh, I understand. I don't agree, but I still understand. I'm capable of understanding things and disagreeing with them at the same time.
You know what I think the problem is with how most people in the government is going about solving the homelessness issue is they're not really treating the root cause of why there is a homelessness issue. So Trevor kind of touched upon it with the fentanyl crisis and, drugs play a big role, I think, in why a lot of people become homeless.
Yep.
But it's also, inflation, housing crisis. People can't afford rent because not everyone who's homeless is a drug addict or whatever.
Yeah.
A lot of people just can't get a job or get one that pays enough to get adequate housing.
I had a friend who was homeless. He had more money and better credit than the rest of us.
Yeah. There's already way more than enough houses in the United States than there are people. So there's enough room for all of the homeless to be housed. So what, Trevor, do you think is the root cause of homelessness?
I think honestly it's the allowance that we've had in the society to just let people, we're allowing these people to get addicted to these horrific drugs, right? And we're allowing these people to be these drug dealers and these criminals. And I mean, as it was said before, as cheesy as it sounds, delinquents of the society. And so, I think what we need to be focusing on is getting them off the streets and getting them either treatment or getting them in jail. You don't want to get off the street? Get the hell out of here. That's simply put the best way we can go about it, because we know that throwing money at the problem doesn't solve anything. You want emergency homelessness shelters? Go back to your socialist society, because it ain't going to work here.
Well, either way, somebody, taxpayers probably would either have to, pay to house them in prisons or to pay for their treatment if they're on state insurance.
So why don't we do private prisons?
I mean, there are private prisons in a lot of places, and
we don't have to. Why don't we just put them all in private prisons? I mean, honestly, anything's better than
lock up everybody.
I mean, I just don't necessarily think they're criminals, and I don't necessarily think that they deserve to be in prison just because they're using drugs and they're homeless.
All research and successful drug policy shows that treatment should be increased while law enforcement should be decreased and abolish mandatory minimum sentences. Drugs should be legal, all of them, every one of them. And then those people who find themselves addicted, yes, they should be helped. Hey, thank you for the call, Trevor. Feel free to call again, man. We appreciate it.
Hold on, I'm not done.
He is now. Oh, and I hung up on Fred.
So real quick.
Hey, Fred, call me back.
With the homelessness issue being out on public lands, the problem is that there's public lands.
603-283-6160. How would you solve the homeless problem?
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
Gold and silver. You can own the most stable assets in recorded history with BullionMax.com. Buy direct from BullionMax.com without talking to a salesperson, and your precious metals shipped fully insured directly to your home. Free Talk Live can get you their silver starter kit at employee pricing. Just go to BullionMax.com/FTL. It includes 5 ounces of the most desirable silver products plus a free gold back. This offer is limited to 1 per household, so get yours now. Go to BullionMax.com/FTL. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Hey, you are going to love the movie Victimless Crime Spree. It's hilarious, heartwarming, and carries a ton of inspiring freedom messages. Feeling down about the lack of liberty in your life? You need to put on this film with some friends and have a good laugh. It's a true story about me and my friends in New Hampshire living free, singing, dancing, and getting arrested. Of course, it's all on video, and the bad guys, the cops, judges, bailiffs, and sheriffs, they all play their part like it's out of a movie or something. You would think we scripted the whole thing, but it's real life. Go ahead and have a watch, and if it's been a while, have another look. I guarantee you'll notice things now that you didn't notice before. And the best part is that you're going to walk away feeling a renewed sense of your own power. You are the master of your destiny, and you will be free in your lifetime. Victimless Crime Spree.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
Back.
Yes, we are.
Why is it and we're back? Why isn't it just we're back? Why is it and?
Because and gives it more emphasis.
I told you, because I stole the shtick from a Saturday Night Live.
Oh, that's
skit.
Right. That's right.
And that's the way they did it.
I remember now.
Remind me during the break. I'll see if I can find it. I think it finally is allowed on YouTube.
Oh, right, because Saturday Night Live.
At one point, I couldn't find it.
Yeah, they don't like to have their videos on the YouTube. They like to put them on the NBC site.
No.
But I think it's okay on YouTube now.
Really?
I don't think the NBC site is all that valuable to most people.
I often try to look up Dana Carvey's broccoli song.
Yes,
and you can rarely find it on YouTube.
No, it's always on YouTube. That's easy.
Well, It used to not be. And if it was, it would be somebody like with a video camera pointed at their TV.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Right? It wouldn't be like a real legit
Take what you
copy.
can get.
Yeah, so.
Chopping broccoli.
There's a lady I know. If I didn't know her, she'd be the lady I didn't know. Yeah, it's pretty great stuff.
Went downtown.
All right, if you want to hear it, you can look it up. The telephone number here in the studio, 603-283-6160. In the studio, it's myself, the captain.
It's Nikki.
And Richie Rich.
Let's go to more of your calls and thoughts. We have Fred calling from Michigan. Fred, you're on Free Talk Live.
Fred?
Oh, yes, this is Fred Farkle from Flint. Home of the Grand Trunk Railroad.
You sound just like this other guy who calls all the time. Sometimes he gets really drunk and he calls too. His name is Major Payne. Do you know him?
Oh, goodness. We must watch out for that blighter.
What's on your mind, Fred?
Well, like I said, the Grand Funk took the name from the Grand Trunk. I just thought that was kind of some interesting rock and roll trivia for y'all.
Like the Grand Funk Railroad?
Dinosaur Land.
Yeah, for those of us old enough to remember rock and roll.
Rock and roll.
I'm offended.
You remember I gave you that
name one rock and roll band.
Ricardo last night, and we got sidetracked talking about Ricky and Lucy.
No, but go on.
Well, you remember the show, Lucille Ball and Ricky Ricardo, right?
Honey, I'm home.
Yep.
I Love Lucy.
Yep. At one time, the mob had a hit out on Ricky. Seems they got wind that he liked to smack Lucy around with his hot Cuban blood self.
Yeah.
And they took offense to that. And after Ricky was apprised of the situation, he stopped smacking Lucy around, and evidently they canceled the contract. But I thought that was kind of cool for old black and white trivia.
Wow, so the mob is more effective at stopping domestic abuse than government.
How about that?
Weird.
We should turn the mob on the police force with their 40% abuse rate.
The good news is that 40% of the police force abuses their spouse.
Yeah,
Bad news.
Yeah, I know one in town here that was just like that, and none of his cohorts even had respect for him. Sometimes they wouldn't, come in when he called for backup and whatnot. He got his ass handed to him in a hat a couple times.
Yeah,
that's kind of cool.
I don't like the term domestic violence either. You're either being beaten or you're not. Also domestic violence insinuates feral violence.
I was about to say, it doesn't sound very domesticated.
Yeah,
I mean, there is feral viilence. You could go out and get knocked out by a stranger,
right?
Especially if you're in New York.
Domestic violence is like from, what was that old movie where not Rosie Greer, that big linebacker knocked out the horse? Blazing Saddles.
Oh.
Beating the stock. That's domestic violence.
Yeah. All right. Hey, Major, thanks for the call. We appreciate you. Moving right along.
Domestic violence implies it happens in the home, which is true.
Or that they've taken it out of the wild and brought it into the home.
Which is also true.
All right.
That's outdoor behavior.
Let's go to Sarah in New Mexico. Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live.
Oh, yes. So there was a man that worked for our governor's campaign, and then he claimed that she grabbed his ding-dong or sexual harassment.
Ooh.
So he actually got paid $150,000.
Wow.
Like he got, yeah. So now
wish I could helicopter like that.
Well, the news story is that now he ran off to Pennsylvania. He got run out of New Mexico. And then now there's his life.
Wait, who did the guy who was harassed or the governor?
No, the guy that got the payment. I don't know. He moved to Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. I think he moved.
What
to
makes you think he
and,
was run out?
Well, I just figured that most people. So he got voted in, and they probably. This is what I'm speculating. Why did he move? I have no idea, but he got the money. He moved.
Because New
but
Mexico
now,
sucks.
And also $150,000 is a big chunk of change. I mean, if you want to change the scenery, you got $150,000 in your pocket. Might as
all
well
of a
move.
sudden you have money to move.
Yeah.
Well, but he was on the news. His life is being threatened right now.
By
Somebody
who?
is.
Also, a good reason to not be in town.
This person called Angel. And then he was stuttering so bad the police could not understand what he was saying. He was so terrified. So the New Mexico police told him to call the Philadelphia police because he's over there now.
That doesn't work.
So,
hello, police. I need some help. Great. Call another police department.
I mean, not to drag up old stuff, but like former co-host or current co-host and rarely on co-host went through some similar difficulties with a caller back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Police did nothing.
Police did nothing. Federal police did nothing. Cross state lines and the feds did nothing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he lives in Philadelphia, so he's only right that he needs to call the wherever he's living, paying taxes or whatever.
You would think.
But
that don't work.
You know what? I stick up for my governor. You know what I mean? I voted for her again.
Sorry to hear that.
And the thing is that I think this guy is a scammer, as far as I'm concerned. And I don't like all this attack ads. They still running ads against her about this guy. You know, she did wrong. Why did she pay him that money and all this? And it's a good thing that he's getting death threats, as far as I'm concerned.
Sarah,
I think
Sarah,
what a turn for Sarah.
Yeah, first of all, I don't know how old you are, but I assume that you've been around long enough to know that these political attack ads happen every year after year after year. It's getting to a point where like political ads don't even mention like what a politician's like plans are.
Yeah,
to do
it's
or whatever.
just against the other person.
Yeah, it's just this guy sucks because of X, Y, and Z, right? And second of all, you think it's good? You are cheering on potentially somebody being killed?
That's her girl. Governor's her girl.
I don't know about him getting killed, but it was the.
That's what you just said, isn't it?
Well, the threats. She likes the threats, but not all the way.
Right. But the thing is that
women got to stand together.
I know that. I know Michelle Grisham, and you know what? She is not so desperate. She's married. Why would she want to grab somebody's private? You know
because politicians are all power hungry and they think they can get away with it. They think the laws don't apply to them. Hey, thanks for the call, Sarah.
I mean, I think it extends beyond politicians, man. Just more people have more restraint when they don't have the power to get away with it.
Bingo. 603-283-6160. If you had the power of a governor, would you restrain yourself? Give us a call. Let us know. More Free Talk Live is coming up.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks with the Week in Review. And the week ended with shock across America over the attempted killing of Paul Pelosi, husband of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. He was attacked by an intruder at the family home in San Francisco in the early hours of Friday. The assailant faces attempted homicide charges, and there is evidence on his social media accounts that the assault may have been politically motivated. Ro Khanna is a Democratic congressman from Nancy Pelosi's home state of California.
We have to understand that social media has consequences. My understanding from preliminary reporting is that the suspect had problematic conspiracy theories on social media. There should be a review whether there was any incitement to violence there.
He spoke on MSNBC. Mrs. Pelosi was in Washington, D.C. at the time of the attack. Britain got another new Prime Minister this week. Rishi Sunak moved into number 10 Downing Street after becoming the only candidate in the race to succeed Liz Truss. On the steps of Downing Street, he made his first speech in office.
It is the greatest privilege of my life to be able to serve the party I love and give back to the country I owe so much to.
But he was quickly in political hot water over a decision to reappoint Suella Braverman as Home Secretary. She had resigned the post just 6 days earlier after disclosing she'd used a private email account to share government documents. In Washington, President Biden told a Diwali celebration that Mr. Sunak, the first British Asian to become Prime Minister, had broken an important glass ceiling.
Pretty astounding. A groundbreaking milestone, and it matters. It matters.
Russian President Vladimir Putin insisted he has no plans to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine. He accused the West of engaging in nuclear blackmail. FSN's Sergio Olmos spent the week in Kiev, where there were widespread power cuts after the latest Russian attacks.
They've impacted more than 40% of Ukraine's electrical capacity. You see people cooking with candles on or headlamps.
The US economy grew by only 0.6% in the third quarter, adding to recessionary fears. President Biden, days away from midterm elections, insisted the economy is strong and, despite polling to the contrary, predicted voters will move in the Democrats' favour in the remaining days of the campaign. And the world of music is mourning the loss of Jerry Lee Lewis, who died on Friday at the age of 87.
Come on over, baby. Whole lot of shaking going on.
A stunning performer, not without controversy in his personal life, he burst onto the scene in 1956 as Sun Records in Memphis was looking for the next Elvis. He was nicknamed The Killer and described himself as being possessed by the devil's music. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
And we're back. Back again.
Once more. But I repeat myself. I'm an echoing dual repetitive redundancy.
You can say that again.
I'm an echoing dual repetitive redundancy.
I don't even think I could say that once. I'd be like, blah, 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 blah.
All right, say it with me. Echoing.
Dual.
Repetitive. Redundancy.
Very
good.
Yay.
All together now.
We'll edit that in post and throw it on later.
Right. Speed it up a little bit for me, would you?
We don't have any post here. Free Talk Live. We're a live radio program where you can call in and talk about whatever's on your mind.
Put that on the podcast.
Yeah,
episode,
we do edit
you
for
know?
the podcast.
Yeah, come on.
Riley, time mark this.
Speed it up. Yeah. Thank you.
We have more calls to get to, and we'll get to them in just a second. I want to tell you that you can join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 15th through the 18th for the 7th annual Fork Fest.
No Republicans?
At Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out in 2022. For 2023, we're going back to where it all started, the weekend before PorcFest. So PorcFest is a decentralized event, which means there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your campsite, your RV site, or your motel room with Rogers Campground June 15th through the 18th. You can find out more at the unofficial website forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest forum. Links to those can be found at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there. Again, forkfest.party. I hear there's some sort of an event going on during Forkfest this year.
What, my wedding?
Oh, I didn't know if you wanted to brag about it on air or
You know
something,
what's
but-
funny?
Everyone's invited.
So originally I was going to have my wedding in smack in the middle of PorcFest because I thought it would just be funny to force all my family members to go to PorcFest.
That's great.
But then because of reasons, we ended up doing it the weekend before, which is Forkfest.
Yeah.
And my dad was like, well, thank you so much for not doing your wedding in the middle of a political rally. And I was like, you're welcome. Joke's on you. It's still during Forkfest. So that'll be fun.
I thought you were going to move it back to the middle of PorcFest. Yeah. Gotcha.
Haha, psych.
All right, let's
walking down the aisle with tiki torches.
Let's go to
That's a good idea.
No, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Jesus.
Especially if there's like a tent or something, right? You know.
Are you not familiar with that reference?
No, apparently not.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
All right, let's go to
Talk about it in the break.
Let's go to your calls and thoughts. We've got Mr. Henza calling us from Arizona. You're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm just calling about the homeless issue in Arizona. I'm in Tucson right now. That guy's out in Phoenix, and I kind of like took issue with this guy saying we can't allow these people to be homeless.
Yeah, that word "allow" is really bothersome to me as well.
Yeah, it just put me off to the point where I just had to call in and be like, well, the Democrats can't allow you to eat cows because they fart and heat up the climate. So like. It's kind of like a catch-22. I mean, if you start saying that you can't allow people to do things, it's like they're going to cut you off at every corner and say you're not allowed as long as there's 51% saying that you can't do it.
I mean, isn't that what the government does?
Well, and it's kind of like, we can't allow these people to be homeless, as if, I'm assuming most of them would rather not be homeless and they'd rather have a place to live. So, I mean, maybe there's a small minority that are like, yeah, I love being homeless. Like, the streets are awesome. You know what I mean? But we can't allow you to not have food and shelter. That just doesn't make sense to me.
The homeless problem is built on so many compounding government issues.
Yes.
That it's hard to parse them all out into a rational conversation without going into the weeds on every little political problem with that entire issue.
I would absolutely have to agree because there isn't a lot of homeless in Mexico where I live normally. So it's kind of crazy to have the ideas of coercion kind of put out there saying, okay, we're going to use coercion to solve homelessness and drug issues and stuff like that, which, always baffles me. That's their best idea that they got out there. There's a great mob of people, a lot of brilliant people in this whole thing, and their best idea is let's force them not to do it.
Right. Yeah. You're spot on. I mean, like, at its core, the government created the homeless problem because there are no unclaimed pieces of land where a person could go and like homestead and, maybe even form a community of their own, because this land is unclaimed and so they could go and claim it for themselves.
Well, and with zoning laws and taxes, I mean, in other countries, when people need shelter, it's like, all right, let's go build them an earthship or some sort of temporary shelter or something. You can't do that here because of all of the laws and rules and regulation that prevent that.
So we don't have to segue into the article, but do you have the thing I brought in, Captain?
I'm
about
thinking I do.
The homeless.
Yeah.
Just read the headline for now because it's hilarious about what homeless people are doing in some places.
Hang on for me to
Must
find
be
it.
one of these tabs.
Yeah.
I have too many tabs open. Jason, what do you have to say on it?
Basically, there's only one spot in the United States that I am aware of that they allow squatter rights where they just don't mess with people, and that's in Slab City, California.
So here's the headline that we may get into, we may not, who cares. Freeloaders, LA homeless infuriate locals by boasting about hooking up washing machines to street power lines and setting up huge 10-man tents on the sidewalk complete with flower beds.
Yeah.
They have homesteaded the sidewalk. They've done it. And connected power.
Oh, that is fantastic. I love that. They do that in Mexico all the time, believe it or not.
I believe it.
They'll take a sidewalk and they'll put up a palapa, which is like a little shade thing over top, and then they open up a business. And then on top of that, they have squatter rights. So if you can get on land and prove that you've been living there for 5 years, there's a process where you can go and legally claim that land.
Huh.
That
So
reminds
it's kind
me
of like neo-libertarianism.
That reminds me of the guy over here in New Hampshire. What was his name? River Dave.
River Dave, yeah. Yeah, kind of. What you're saying there, Jason, about putting up an umbrella, a tent kind of a thing, and just opening a business. That's how I understand it to work in Mexico. Whereas if I decided to do the same thing here in the United States, I might get away with it for a minute, but as soon as the authorities found out, they're going to shut me down because I didn't buy a license and I didn't, fill out a bunch of forms and pay fees to the government and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, sadly, in most places in the United States, you can't just sit on the roadside and sell tamales out of the back of your car. It's pretty sad that these people just can't earn money the way that everyone's kind of
they're the
used
best
to doing
tamales too.
Here's the thing, though. You have to caveat that a little bit because in a libertarian, free market, private property world, they wouldn't be able to do that either, because that sidewalk would be privately owned by someone, and they would have to get the permission of the property owner to do those activities.
Right, but they wouldn't have to get permission where there was no property owner.
Right.
There would be pieces of property that are not owned by anyone.
But presumably, if you're setting up on the sidewalk, there's a building fronting that.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm sure you could ask the person. Like, there are, like,
you absolutely
ways around
could.
this.
Yeah,
but getting permission from the property.
But that's what voluntarism is interacting with each other on a voluntary basis.
Got it.
Right? So it makes sense to go, like, ask for permission, or, if you're, not going to, if maybe you negotiate a deal, hey, I'll give you a percentage of my profits.
It does make sense. It makes sense to go ask for permission.
Yes.
However, absent the private property owner, we are also advocating for them the ability to do this without permission, because the government, quote unquote, owns that property. Right? The government has claimed ownership over it, and therefore permission not to be asked because it's public and owned by everybody.
Well, that's what the government claims.
That's what they claim, but they've got the guns, and unless you can fight them, you can accept their claim of ownership, or you can fight them over it. Right. Those are your two options.
Right. But the truth is, the government does own that property.
Sure. So either get the permission of the property owner, right, or move along, pal.
Jason, do you have more to say? Do you want to hang on?
Sure, I'll hang on.
All right, stand by. We'll bring you back. 603-283-6160 is the phone number here at Free Talk Live. More with Jason Henza, talking about the homeless problem and how governments, do they help? Do they hinder? Did they create the whole thing? We'll talk about that coming up.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp, is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Yes, come on, everybody out there in Radio Land, say it with me. And we're back. Is that a round of applause?
It's a round, yeah.
Very well.
Another round of applause.
Wow.
On the house.
How do I rate? That's pretty awesome. The telephone number here, 603-283-6160. In the studio, it's myself, the captain.
It's Nikki.
And Richie Rich.
And let's bring Mr. Jason Henza back on the line with us. We were talking about homelessness, specifically, I guess, in the Arizona area, but also we, sort of segued into, how government's responsibility and how the homelessness problem doesn't seem to exist in Mexico. How businesses get started in Mexico versus the United States, all sorts of things. Jason, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. So what else do you want to say about that? Or any of that?
So basically, like, we discussed property rights, and in the libertarian world, have you guys ever discussed geolibertarianism?
I have not.
I have not.
At least on the air anyway, so go ahead.
It's the idea of land being yours as long as you're cultivating it. But if you have, like, say, 100 acres and you're only using 25 of it, and someone comes out and, starts cultivating part of the plot that you have decided to section off for yourself, but you're unable to defend it, does that make that your land still? And do we need the kind of constructs that, like, allow us to own, 22,000 acres or something like that, like where we own like half a state?
So
it is kind of a question of homelessness being kind of solved by being more land, because you don't have this conglomerate that keeps buying up all the housing and forcing everyone to pay rent and stuff like that. There's just a bunch of abandoned houses where these homeless people can just kind of migrate to and take care of themselves.
Yeah, Occupy Ghost Town is what I've started, like referring to that for a while now.
Nice.
I love that idea.
I personally take issue with the land cultivation thing. Like, I hate it as a concept because it means that you always have to do something with the land, and that reduces any methodology or idea of historical preservation. Right? Like,
right. Well, all you have to do is defend the land. You don't necessarily have to do something with cultivating it, right?
If you're saying defend, fine.
Yeah.
Because at a deeply philosophical level,
yeah.
At a deeply philosophical level, the concept of rights are one of two things, right? That which everybody agrees upon, or that which you can defend. And defense is the part of that nobody really wants to talk about. You can have as much land as you want, but you have to defend it.
Right.
Like I said, the government claims ownership of all the public land, right? And one of two things: we either agree that it's theirs, or we are powerless to take it back. Because if we wanted it back, there's a way to get it back, and they have to defend against that.
Yeah. It's sadly, we enslave ourselves by using their money and following the rules. So therefore, the government literally owns all the land.
It does. And I was going to take that one further. Government doesn't just claim to own the public land. The government actually claims to own all of the land.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you wouldn't pay taxes once you've paid off your mortgage.
Yeah. So if you want to claim ownership of your land, right, it's yours, you've declared it to be yours, and then you have to defend it against encroachment.
I'm curious what Mr. Henza thinks about the sort of the Native American philosophy of nobody owns the earth, that everybody can just sort of roam around freely, and if you happen to build a place, that's fine, but sort of the same principle applies where you have to be able to defend that place.
Otherwise, white people come and take it.
Well,
which is what happened.
What are your thoughts, Jason?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I do prefer that kind of thing, where people just don't own land, because as I start to think about it more deeply, how much land can one individual own or a group of individuals own, and going on like that. And eventually you do get to a point where you create people that are just vagrants that have no place to go, no place to live, and all they're doing is just occupying space that you control, and there's nothing more you can do with it.
Yeah, one of the things...
That's why the commies don't like the ANCAPs.
Well, one of the things that I'm sort of getting at here is that it used to be natural for there to be migrant human beings. Tribes of them, entire societies of migrant people, and they seem to have gone away. There's no freedom for there to be entire societies that are just sort of migrant.
Because we developed agriculture and we said, you know what? We can just stay here and still be able to eat.
Right, but what I'm saying is...
sort of, these people are now regulated, the migrant population that moves around constantly. They're just regulated through plate licensures and driver's license and stuff like that, and they live out of their vehicles and go from point A to point B and living in one spot or another, which is something that I do.
No, I understand that, and there are migrant subcultures, if you will, but there aren't the massive societies that used to exist on planet Earth, because until governments came along and said, hey, we own everything and you blah blah blah, there used to be large societies of people. Now I understand technology changes some of that.
Yeah.
However, what if there was enough people who decided that they wanted to live a migrant lifestyle? They're not free to do so because government claims to own all of planet Earth.
Sure.
Yeah, it kind of sucks the way that people are limited.
But again, they would still not be free to do so on the opposite end of that coin, right? If everything was privately owned, they would have to get permission at every stage of the way.
There would ostensibly be land that is not owned.
Possibly. Theoretically, yes. Unclaimed, uninhabited.
They couldn't possibly defend it all.
Right.
Well, but if small numbers of people own small plots of land, right, you could still defend your small plot, and a migrant society would have to get your permission to pass through, or whatever, all along the way, or as you said, there would be unowned parts of the land. Right now, theoretically, if the government isn't defending it, right, they can probably pass through unmolested. Right, there's lots of undefended land, if that's how you want to call it, and feel free to migrate and mill about all you want. Like Parks and Recreation isn't going out that far, man. You are free to roam.
Well, on the complete opposite end of this discussion would be free market cities, right? It's my opinion that cities would still exist.
Sure.
Not necessarily the same cities that we have or in the same fashion that they exist now, but cities where hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people would congregate and build things like skyscrapers and, shopping centers and, all of that kind of thing, manufacturing centers, all that kind of stuff.
And a migrant society would still need to get someone there's permission to pass through.
Okay. But I'm just saying on the other end of that, a free market, a private property society, cities would still exist as well. But what needs to happen, of course, is there needs to be a balance between all of the types of human culture. They need to all be able to exist, whether it's a migrant culture, whether it's a city culture, whether it's a bunch of country folk getting together with farmland or whatever. They all need to be able to exist in freedom. Oh, big silence. Okay.
Mic drop.
Oh, all right. Well, I guess I've done my job. Jason, any other thoughts?
No, thank you very much for your time.
Hey, thanks for calling. Feel free to call again anytime, bro. I know you have more thoughts.
No, I mean they should all be allowed.
Yes,
but whether you have the state owning the land or private property owners owning the land,
yes,
right? Like I said, one of two things. Either they have to get permission to be a migrant society, or the land is undefended and they can already migrate through that area.
Right.
So it's either not a problem or going to be the same problem regardless of how society is structured.
And, obviously, like, I don't have a crystal ball and I don't know exactly how this would work out.
I was depending on you to have a crystal ball.
Nikki seems like the type of girl that would have a crystal ball.
I actually technically do, but what I meant was
make your
I'm not psychic. Anyways, it's hard to predict exactly how this like free market society, like voluntarist society would exactly play out,
Right.
but I wouldn't foresee any of this being a problem. You know what I mean? Like, I foresee like people being to pass through cities and, private property without it really being too much of an issue.
Yeah.
And people kind of just being able to live in peace and harmony.
Because the market solves problems, right? And so when you have a market problem, the market will figure out a way. People, that is, who participate in the market will figure out a way to solve these problems, whether it's through some sort of contracting, whether it's
it's really just based on communication.
It's just communication and voluntary interaction with each other. Something that we can't do until this behemoth of an organization known as government gets the hell out of the way.
Look, when I think of migrant societies, I think of societies that migrate from food source to food source.
Yeah.
And if the food source is undefended, it's already undefended. And if it's on private property, it's going to be defended, and they still won't be able to migrate.
603-283-6160. More of your calls and thoughts are coming up. We've got a couple other items in store for you as well. Hour number 3 of Free Talk Live is next.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks with the Week in Review. And the week ended with shock across America over the attempted killing of Paul Pelosi, husband of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. He was attacked by an intruder at the family home in San Francisco in the early hours of Friday. The assailant faces attempted homicide charges, and there is evidence on his social media accounts that the assault may have been politically motivated. Ro Khanna is a Democratic congressman from Nancy Pelosi's home state of California.
We have to understand that social media has consequences. My understanding from preliminary reporting is that the suspect had problematic conspiracy theories on social media. there should be a review whether there was any incitement to violence there.
He spoke on MSNBC. Mrs. Pelosi was in Washington, D.C. at the time of the attack. Britain got another new Prime Minister this week. Rishi Sunak moved into number 10 Downing Street after becoming the only candidate in the race to succeed Liz Truss. On the steps of Downing Street, he made his first speech in office.
It is the greatest privilege of my life to be able to serve the party I love and give back to the country I owe so much to.
But he was quickly in political hot water over a decision to reappoint Suella Braverman as Home Secretary. She had resigned the post just 6 days earlier after disclosing she'd used a private email account to share government documents. In Washington, President Biden told a Diwali celebration that Mr. Sunak, the first British Asian to become Prime Minister, had broken an important glass ceiling.
Pretty astounding. A groundbreaking milestone, and it matters. It matters.
Russian President Vladimir Putin insisted he has no plans to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine. He accused the West of engaging in nuclear blackmail. FSN's Sergio Olmos spent the week in Kiev, where there were widespread power cuts after the latest Russian attacks.
They've impacted more than 40% of Ukraine's electrical capacity. You see people cooking with candles on or headlamps.
The US economy grew by only 0.6% in the third quarter, adding to recessionary fears. President Biden, days away from midterm elections, insisted the economy is strong and, despite polling to the contrary, predicted voters will move in the Democrats' favor in the remaining days of the campaign. And the world of music is mourning the loss of Jerry Lee Lewis, who died on Friday at the age of 87.
Come on over, baby. Whole lot of shaking going on.
A stunning performer, not without controversy in his personal life, he burst onto the scene in 1956 as Sun Records in Memphis was looking for the next Elvis. He was nicknamed The Killer and described himself as being possessed by the devil's music. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. It's a big week for investors and consumers in the United States. The Federal Reserve meets in New York on Tuesday and Wednesday with interest rate rises possible. With the preview from FSN's business desk in New York, Gabrielle Farmi.
All signs point to another 75 basis point hike, and most investors have already come to terms with that. The job market continues to be strong and inflation high. Though the Fed is facing political pressure to slow the pace ahead of the midterm elections, with government worried about a recession and people losing jobs, it's unlikely to deter central bankers who've made it clear their goal is to bring interest rates well above 4% by year's end. They're currently sitting at 3%, and next week's is the second to last meeting of the year, with a final one planned in mid-December.
And it'll be a big week at Twitter now that Elon Musk is in charge. His $44 billion acquisition of the platform on Thursday led to the immediate firing of key executives, including the legal counsel who authorised the suspension of Donald Trump's account. The EU's Internal Market Commissioner Thierry Breton is warning Musk to abide by the bloc's digital rulebook, as FSN's Rosie Burchard reported on Friday.
After Elon Musk tweeted, "The bird is freed," the EU's internal market boss responded with a simple message. In Europe, he wrote, "The bird will fly by our rules." Breton is referring to landmark European Union legislation set to kick in from 2024, which will force big platforms like Twitter to police online content and crack down on disinformation, demanding more transparency from the firms.
In the coming week, we'll see whether Donald Trump gets that Twitter account back. We'll see who wins the second round of Brazil's presidential election. And we'll see whether British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak reverses his decision to stay away from the COP27 climate change conference in Egypt. And that is the Week in Review from Feature Story News. Simon Marks reporting.
Despite being objectively awful people, newly engaged couple Ross Bird and Jessica Black want their upcoming wedding to really reflect their personalities.
We're pulling out all the stops to have a kind of wedding that just screams us. Yeah. We're going to have a bluegrass band playing 80s pop songs. Because Ross loves bluegrass, but I love 80s music.
And then at the end of the ceremony, this is great, we're going to pass out sparklers to all the guests.
Sources claim that a bunch of candles in mason jars and an Instagram photo booth will truly capture the essence of the insufferable pair.
We didn't want some big stuffy ceremony.
Yeah,
it should feel more like a fun dance party for our friends.
Because the night's about us, yes, but I mean, it's also, about the people who make us us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And those people love us exactly for our uniqueness.
Sources hoped with every fiber of their being that these two would be divorced within a year.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
And we're back! Pick it up a notch.
Threw me off with that
I know.
one.
Nikki, I tried to keep up too.
Like,
Just trying to do a little more true to the
source
to
material.
the source material, as Richie Rich pointed out to us. It is Free Talk Live. You are listening to the Sunday night edition. It is the top of hour number 3. We are here, and this is where we're at. The telephone number is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. In the studio, it's myself, the Lord Reverend Dr. Captain Kickass. Joining me,
It's Nikki.
And Richie Rich.
we have been all over the place on topics and subject matter, and it's.
There's a homelessness theme floating through there.
It's been a fun show. I mean, we're really talking about houselessness, right?
Sure.
Home, like
home is where your heart is.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff, right? Or home is where maybe you grew up.
Okay.
The city or town, or maybe it's your parents' house or something like that. So home, it's kind of weird, but like, who's to say that people who choose to be homeless can't be?
They shouldn't be allowed to be homeless.
Yeah, there you go. The government and that guy.
Yeah, and that guy.
Like I said, I said this earlier. I have a friend who was homeless, had more money, better credit than the rest of us. Just chose to live that way.
Well, and you know what? So I follow this girl on YouTube that lives in her Corolla.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what he drove.
It must be a thing. But her point was, she wanted more freedom.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, my biggest financial expense is my rent.
Yeah.
So I could just live in my car. And she's been doing it for like at least 3 years. I've been following her, and she's totally happy.
There are entire communities of what are referred to as van dwellers.
Yeah.
Right. So these are people who live in their cars, their vans. Maybe they convert them into some sort of a camper or something.
Yeah,
like
van
that.
life.
Jason actually does that. He migrates around, so he doesn't have like a steady, we'll call it a house. So he, roams around the States. He'll go back and forth to Mexico and all that kind of stuff. So he's kind of living that lifestyle. There are a whole bunch of retired folk who travel around in RVs as well, where they don't have, a firm piece of property that they call home. They'll do things like register their RV in Montana, so that they have, some sort of a permanent address, quote unquote, where they can have their driver's license and their license plates registered too, and that kind of thing, so they can travel around without getting harassed by the man. But there are, even in today's society, there exists migrant people who choose to live that way.
Yeah.
So.
And, it looks a little bit different because, as Richie Rich was saying, like, people typically, historically, were following food sources. Right. And now it's like, well, you can just go to you can just go to McDonald's or whatever. So it looks a little bit different, but there are a lot of people that snowbird where they live in New England or wherever up north during the summer. And then once it gets too cold for them, they go down to Florida or wherever they live down south.
Yep. And some of these migrant workers, the van dwellers in particular I'm thinking of, they follow the work.
Yeah.
So some of them will go, like, I think Walmart has seasonal work where they'll hire people and provide a parking space if you have an RV. Sometimes they'll even provide like a dump station for your waste and some water, stuff like that, supplies. And you'll go work for them seasonally, like over the Christmas time for, a couple of months. And then once you relieve yourself of the cost of either a mortgage or rent, it suddenly costs far less to live on.
Yeah.
Right. So you can work for 3-4 months out of the year and have enough to get by if you are a van dweller or an RV dweller, that kind of thing.
Regular caller Major Payne, right, has shared stories about him following where the work was as recently as the pandemic times. So,
yeah,
it's a thing.
Yeah, it definitely is. I wonder how much more difficult it's gotten for those people. With inflation and, all that kind of thing since the propagandemic kicked in.
Okay. It's gotten difficult for everybody.
Sure, but I just wonder if, it affects them differently or how, or because I know some of these people would, they'll go to like these campgrounds.
Yeah.
Right. And they'll work there, right, in the summertime or whatever. And that'll be one of the jobs that they do. But, when you start closing down gathering places for people, well, now they can't go and work there. So
I think, well, as long as they're not having the mortgage or the rent payment, right, even if they're affected, they're probably affected ever so slightly less.
Yeah.
Because that's most people's biggest expense.
Right.
And if prices go up and your biggest expense goes up, as the same percentage,
yeah,
that's net a lot greater on the whole.
Yeah.
So still might not be a bad idea for that Van Dwellen lifestyle.
Let's go to some of your calls and thoughts. Let's start with, we've got Robert in South Carolina. Robert, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, yes, I was listening to what you all just said, and I studied law in Germany, and my professor, Dr. Knut Amelung, he was professor for Strafrecht, which means criminal law, and he and any kind of a problem in society, he always said that the way you solve a problem really is you think of the Knackpunkt, and the Knackpunkt is the key or critical point that's actually causing the problem. Don't get tied up with symptomatology. He said you'll go around putting Band-Aids on things. And he said that's not going to help. What you've got to do is you've got to get to the core, the cause of the problem. And
finally, Robert agrees we need to eliminate the government.
Wow.
Well, something. My grandfather, he was actually the grandson of a Roman senator, and his feeling was that government is a necessary evil because he was a very kind Italian who was very respected in the Italian community of Brooklyn, New York.
And still wrong.
Well, the thing is, you have to operate within the society has to operate in a system that's responsible to the people, basically.
Robert, are you a religious man?
No, not really.
Okay. Well, then either way, why is evil necessary?
Evil? Did I say evil?
You said government is a necessary evil. Why is evil necessary?
That's a saying that he had. He was not religious actually either. Actually, really.
But I'm asking you, why is evil necessary?
Well, why is the government necessary? Yes, because you see, if you didn't have government, you'd have no way of culling out problems that only really government can get after. I mean,
I disagree with that.
Fact check found that claim to be false.
Well, okay, that's true. Yeah, there was a problem. I can give you an example. Of a guy who turned out to be a bad guy in La Cosa Nostra, and they had to get rid of him because the mafia doesn't have any prisons. So the only way they can get rid of people is basically by executing them, and he was a problem. He actually had done something very bad to the community, and my stepfather was the examining physician, so he knew exactly what had happened. And the guy who had the perpetrator was, like I say, this La Cosa Nostra guy, said to my father, "You got a nicer wife and you got a nicer family. In other words, you won't have a nice wife and a nice family if you say anything bad about me in front of the court." So my grandfather said, and the Neapolitan mafia said to him, "Look, don't worry about it. Just get up in the court, say that he was a nice guy and there's no problem." And he said, "We'll take care of it." They said, "We'll take care of it." So in 2 weeks later, they brought up somebody from South America, filled him full of bullets, threw him in the trunk of his Cadillac, and finished. But you see, the problem is that the government would have a very, very hard time getting rid of these people, and you have to get rid of people who are very, very dangerous to society. Either put them behind bars, or just get them out of the way because they're abusive and they're really bad apples. And our government, being responsible to the people, can do that.
I think your example proves that you don't need a government to get rid of bad people in society.
Well, you do need some kind of an organization, you see?
Well, you need someone to handle the business. Doesn't need to be organized.
And it certainly doesn't need to be funded by theft in the way governments fund themselves. Thank you for the call, Robert. We appreciate you.
You got a problem, we got a problem solver.
Let's move on to an unscreened caller.
That's fun.
Calling on our VoIP line. Unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live. Unscreened caller going once.
I guess not.
Unscreened caller going twice. All right, if you can hear me, give us a call back.
Great music, unscreened caller. Great music.
We've got more of your calls coming up, and if we can get to it, A few other little nuggets in store for you tonight on the Sunday night edition of Free Talk Live. The telephone number is 603-283-6160. More is coming up.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
8 great shopping tips. I'm Holland Cook with Inflation Hacks, and I am real impressed with all the ways to save that you are sending. Gabriella writes, I began buying fold-top sandwich bags to use with food items that don't need to be airtight. Even a sandwich at work won't spoil since you'll eat it within 3 or 4 hours. And fold-top bags are much less expensive than those Ziploc-type bags. And she whipped up a tasty ceviche using a can of sardines. Much easier to work with than fresh fish, shrimp, or crab meat, she says, and much less expensive. She writes, who would have thought it would be a hit with my picky son? So then she tried canned salmon. You can read her entire post on my blog, where you can share how you are coping. Post your inflation hacks at andyoucanquoteme.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Have you had enough of the big-name web hosting services that are long on promises but short on bleeding-edge features, uptime, and customer service? Try Agorist Hosting, the agile web host that offers full concierge service from website redesign, full e-commerce solutions, custom apps for your Shopify store, IPFS integration, and more. Agorist Hosting is ready to take your web presence into the future. To get started, head over to agoristhosting.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
And we're back! Yes, welcome back to Free Talk Live. The telephone number in the studio is 603-283-6160. I am Handsome Dan, and joining me in the studio, it's... and...
Raj needs the intern. What are you doing here? It's Richie Rich.
People are like, wait, did I change the radio station?
Yeah, you tuned into Z105, apparently.
Z105. That's right. We are talking like this because this is the classic Shock Jock radio voice.
Dirty Dan.
Can't get away with that today's culture.
Yeah. The telephone number, it's Free Talk Live, in case you're wondering. Really, it's Free Talk Live. 603-283-6160 is the telephone number. I am the captain. I'm the host tonight. Joining me,
Nikki.
And Richie Rich, for real this time.
And let's go to David in New Mexico.
Speaking of homelessness.
Oh, I thought it was homeliness.
Oh, okay. Either way.
Oh, David, you're on Free Talk Live.
Child trafficking, child trafficking, child trafficking, child trafficking. John J. Romero Jr., John J. Romero Jr., John J. Romero Jr. How much more can you drink, Captain?
That's a lot of beer and a couple of shots right there.
I'm glad we got that out of the way.
Last week's drinking game.
I haven't reached my limit yet. Go ahead, David.
Oh,
he's a professional, remember, from Wisconsin.
Monica Zamora, judge.
You know what? You should write a song with all of that in it.
John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt.
Jingleheimer. No, but it's not Schmidt. It's the FCC illegal version.
Oh.
All right.
Yeah, the government, you were talking earlier, the government doesn't just claim to own all land. They claim to own all people, too.
That is true.
Evidence.
Yeah.
Yes. Here's some evidence for you. I used to have some children, like I lived with them and took care of them every day. And then I split up with the other parent.
Mm-hmm.
And she went to the government and she said, "Hey, government, I don't want that guy, the biological father, I don't want him to know his children anymore. And I have this new guy that I sleep with, and so I want him to adopt my children, and I want you to get rid of the biological father."
What kind of a man lets his property run to the government like that?
Pardon?
So what kind of a man lets his property run to the government like that? Can't let those people out of the house.
I don't really understand your question, so I will continue forward. So the point is that they paid tens of thousands of dollars of cash money to a government, an officer of the court, to facilitate with the court the transfer of the ownership, or whatever word you want to use if you don't like ownership, of those human beings known as children to the non-biological male that was the new penis in the bed of the baby mama.
Yep.
And the biological penis never saw the children again.
Probably a good thing when you describe it like that.
Richie, you know what?
I
mean, Jesus, dude.
Well, he does kind of look like Jesus. He's got long hair and a beard.
Yeah,
I mean, when you're talking about like penises seeing children, maybe there's good reason.
No, that's generally that's what it is to the woman. If you want to talk in real world terms,
okay,
dude. She's just swapping penises is what she's doing.
Okay,
is her name Sharon Peters?
Yes. So the bottom line is it doesn't that policy of thinking that the institution calling itself government owns all land. They also think that they own. Oh, and by the way,
they own the people. You have to finish that sentence. They also own people.
Yes, and the dude that took ownership of my children. Guess what happened? He came home drunk one night at 4 a.m. and tried to rape the baby mama. Baby mama wasn't having anything of it, and so he beat her up. And then the son came and tried to intervene, so he beat up the son too. You know, the one that he took ownership of. And then now that dude is out of that house as well. So. But that's how that went down when government got involved.
Hey, thanks for the call, David. Sounds like you picked a real winner.
Sounds like she picked two.
603-283-6160. There does have to be some responsibility for the mate that you pick to bear your children. Now, do people change over time? Yes. Do people come down with mental illnesses as they age and all this kind of thing, and after they have children, and there's postpartum depression, there's all sorts of these things. But all that being said, at some point you have to take a little bit of responsibility for the person you chose to mate with. And even if that's just admitting, hey, I made a horrible decision.
Yeah.
You know, there has to be some personal responsibility involved there. Well, that was David Olson with his same story, same as it ever was.
Same old story.
Wow, I was thinking about the That song really applies to him. This is not my beautiful
same
house.
as it ever was.
This is not my beautiful wife. How did I get here?
Yeah.
Yes, David Byrne. That's right. All right, Richie, you brought up the freeloaders article. Did we cover that?
We didn't cover it, but we were talking about the homelessness problem, right? And what they do when they decide to homestead land. And it just so happens, I had an article about the homelessness, basically homesteading pieces of sidewalk and setting up like power to their washing machines, flower beds.
This reminds me, and I hate to bring it up again, but the movie Demolition Man. Remember how Dennis Leary was sort of like the head of the people underground, literally underground? They were doing this. They were tapping into the existing city's electric and water and power and, using that as their, way to get by, if you will.
Yep.
So that they could mount some sort of a resistance or what have you.
But do they, in this case, the libertarian question could be asked, do they have a right to that power and the right to the land? And whom did they get permission from to do such things if permission need be granted?
Right, because people are under the illusion that public property is shared amongst everybody. And it's not, because really the closest to the truth you're going to get, if you just substitute the word government for the word public, you get a much closer truth. It's not public forest, it's government forest. It's not public works, it's government works.
Sure.
It's not public roads, it's government roads.
But one of the things about having government-owned land or public property or whatever phrasing you want to use, right, is like equal access to, right? Which means they have the same right to be there as anybody else. Which means it's hard to kick them out because, they theoretically, right, taxes have been paid. They're probably not paying much into it, but that's not a part of the equation. The equation is we will all come together and call this, property owned by everyone, owned by the government, whatever, so that everyone may access it equally. And so they have.
Yeah. And I want to point out, too, just because we haven't said it, that homelessness, or at least these growing number of people in large cities that seem to be, dwelling in tents and sidewalks and campers and cars and lions and tigers and bears, oh my, is, I would say, more of an epidemic or a pandemic than, anything recently called that.
Okay.
Not only is it happening in, this article is about Los Angeles. We talked to Mr. Henza today about Arizona, Phoenix, and Tucson.
Yeah.
I'm like every single city, pretty much.
Every city.
But it's not as bad in some areas as it is in others.
In some cities.
Right.
But there's even homeless in little old Keene, New Hampshire.
Sure, of course. Why not?
603-283-6160. Do you have a solution for homelessness? Give us a call. More Free Talk Live is coming up.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Jagruti Dave. Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva will be Brazil's next president after narrowly beating right-wing incumbent Jair Bolsonaro in a runoff race. William Denzelo has more from Rio de Janeiro.
News of Lula's election win sent his supporters into raptures on the streets of Rio. In a tweet, Lula posted a picture of his hand on the Brazilian flag, captioned by a single word: democracy. This campaign has been bitterly fought, with incumbent President Jair Bolsonaro raising questions about the nation's electoral integrity. Lula was president from 2003 to 2010, a time of great economic prosperity for Brazil. The leftist has vowed to tackle inequality and address deforestation in the Amazon. In a victory speech, he said Brazil is back on the world stage and vowed to fight against prejudice and discrimination. The Supreme Court annulled his corruption conviction, but the issue still dogged him on the campaign trail. Bolsonaro has been voted out of office, but these election results show that much of the nation backs him and his conservative values.
At least 70 people have died after a bridge collapsed in the western Indian state of Gujarat, with some media outlets reporting an even higher death toll. Hundreds of people are believed to have been standing on or near the bridge at the time. I spoke to our New Delhi correspondent Ishan Garg for more on the rescue efforts.
Media reports say people clung on to the cables of the collapsed bridge, but most fell into the river. They'd gathered there to celebrate the Hindu festival of Chhath Puja. The century-old bridge in Morbi, just 250 kilometers from the capital of Gujarat, had recently been renovated. Officials say the focus now must be on the rescue efforts. They've also announced a compensation of $7,200 for the deceased and $600 for the injured.
The families of more than 150 people killed in Saturday's Halloween crowd crush are demanding answers as investigators scramble to find out how the tragedy occurred. Many of the victims were in their 20s. Caroline Malone has more from Hong Kong.
South Korean President Yoon has declared a period of national mourning across the country after really tragic events. In Seoul, thousands of people had gathered in Itaewon district, that's the nightclub district. But unfortunately, things really turned tragic when large numbers of that crowd started to converge down a narrow alley. People were coming in from the left and the right, and there was nowhere to go, and people were literally crushed, unfortunately, in that street. Now, it's not just South Koreans that have been affected in this disaster. There's a number of foreign nationals as well. We're hearing reports of Chinese nationals, Iranians, some Americans as well. And the US State Department has come out and said that it's offering consular services to at least one person there.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
And we're back.
We are back. We are dead. We are not here. If we were here, we'd be here. That's what someone said, but we're not. We're dead.
I wish we had more laser noises.
Pew! Pew, pew! Pew, pew!
Now we're going to get
Laser Little Five. Okay, I guess we're technically not supposed to say stuff like that. But, you know.
Really?
It was from the bit.
I don't know the rules.
I was being humorous and imitating a thing that was imitating a thing, so I think that's meta enough for us to get away with it. But
plus, you're a parody artist.
I am a parody artist.
Built into your code.
He's a professional.
If I have to defend it, I will.
To the death if need be.
Let's move on from homelessness, shall we? What do you say? I want to talk about this article from Boston, NBC Boston.
Ooh.
Where you park your car around the corner.
Okay.
Mass woman accused of using bees to attack sheriff's deputies.
Bees?
Phenomenal.
Bees.
Fantastic.
Let me say it in a voice that most people can understand.
And other F words.
Massachusetts woman accused of using bees to attack sheriff's deputies.
Good for her.
She gets 1 point.
Rory Susan Woods, age 55, of Hadley, is facing numerous charges in the wake of the incident.
Nikki's nodding her head like she knows something about this.
Do you know this lady?
Hadley?
I'm just familiar with Hadley.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this typical behavior for Hadley natives?
Not really, but
Oh, okay.
I'm happy that I don't know. It's
All
just, I feel like a proud masshole right now. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, that lady.
A Massachusetts woman is facing numerous charges after she allegedly unleashed a hive full of bees onto sheriff's deputies, some of them allergic to bee stings, as they tried to serve an eviction notice in Longmeadow last week. The Hampton County Sheriff's Office said they were dealing with an eviction on, it's misspelled, on Memory Lane. They were literally evicting somebody from Memory Lane. But it's misspelled. It's Memery, not O-R-Y. Anyway.
Memories.
In Longmeadow. Not Memory. Memory.
In the Boston accent.
Boston accent. You park your car around the corner, take a trip down Memory Lane.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway. On October 12th, when Rory Susan Woods, age 55 of Hadley, arrived in her SUV, towing a flatbed with multiple manufactured beehives, and began trying to open the lids of the beehives to unleash them.
So proving intent is not going to be difficult for the prosecution.
Right. It's creative, though. I mean, I'll give her that.
She was
came all this way with a trailer full of beehives. No, just letting him out for fresh air, officer.
It's like when you travel with your dog, you have to let him out of the car, go pee,
sure.
Give him some water, and She was among several protesters who met the deputies when they arrived at the property. When she was told that several officers were allergic to bees, she said, "Oh, you're allergic? Good."
Oh man!
According to the official department report,
that's not very nice.
A sheriff's deputy,
a cop. Do you care?
Still, I mean, if he's allergic to bees, that's kind of messed up.
No.
I don't want him to die.
He'll swell up and have trouble chewing food and swallowing for a couple
The cops carry EpiPens and stuff like that. They're EMT trained first. They're supposed to be anyway. Yeah. How well trained they are. I don't know.
Yeah, but if they see someone going into a diabetic coma and they reach for the EpiPen and pull out the billy club way too many times.
Well, yeah.
I thought it was the pen. That's why I hit him in the chest so much.
So far, I like the cut of her jib, but
maybe.
But I don't agree with assault.
Okay.
Right. So we'll see. We'll see what happens here.
Like again, I'll speculate ever so briefly. I like saying that now. That's kind of my catchphrase.
Yes.
Why were again in private property society, eviction is a logically consistent thing that needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And so even in the absence of the sheriff's deputy office, there might be an organization willing to provide that service to a property owner, right? And maybe the property owner in this case was in the right, and she was preventing people rightfully doing their duty from evicting someone who ought not be on the property.
Let's find out.
A
sheriff's deputy tried to stop her, but as the agitated bees started circling the area, he pulled back. Woods then smashed the lid and flipped a hive off the flatbed, making the bees extremely aggressive. The bees swarmed the area and stung several officers and other bystanders in the area.
Casualties.
Sounds like I don't know if you guys ever played that Magic the Gathering game.
Nope.
I have. With you.
Nerds.
That's right.
Yeah, that one time.
That was fun.
Nerds.
Don't act like you're not a nerd, Richie Rich. You're a nerd of Potsy-like proportions. You just like to think you're not.
I don't play Magic the Gathering.
But you play video games, right?
That is true, yeah.
Okay. And you're up on nerd culture. So you're a movie buff and all that kind of stuff. So
I'm up on a lot of culture because I do a lot of show prep for this show.
Sure.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway.
Like I don't follow chess, but that story last week was great.
Sure you don't.
I don't.
You said you've been following it for quite some time.
I've been following that story for like 6 weeks. That's what it is.
What were we talking about? Oh yeah, bees. I had another point to make. I don't remember what it was. When you play this, the card games, there's this event known as table flipping. And that is when somebody loses and gets so butthurt about it that they flip the table and all the cards and everything on it. And there's like plenty of GIFs and things like that floating around the internet if you have any desire to see any of that. So
I don't think I've purposely thrown a controller on my video.
It sounds like that's what she did, was she sort of like table flipped the beehives off of her flatbed trailer. Woods then put on a beekeeper's suit to protect herself.
After she flipped it and then decided to dress down? Okay.
Woods then, this is according to the article, so we don't know if this is we don't know if this is quality reporting or not, but it says Woods then put on a beekeeper's suit to protect herself as she carried a tower of bees near the front door of the home in an effort to stop the eviction, which the sheriff's office said has been stop and go for almost 2 years. So the cops have been trying to evict whoever for 2 years.
I want to see a picture of this woman. Like, I
Throw
need
an
a
endangered
face,
animal through the window, then they can't get anybody out of there.
She is now, after she carried a beehive close to the front door of the home, the sheriff's office said Woods tried to agitate the bees further and was arrested by sheriff's deputies and taken to the Western Massachusetts Regional Women's Correctional Facility.
Stole their honey.
Could they put more words into the Western Massachusetts Regional Women's Correctional Facility? I feel like it's a very short phrase, and it needs like 7 or 8 more words.
What's the acronym?
There's no vowels in there, so yeah.
They could have just said jail.
The WMR,
Right.
the WMRWCF.
All right. I know that place.
Yeah.
It's in Hadley somewhere.
That's where I go to pick up chicks. That's right.
Where's that barista story?
Print out a handful of pardons. Everett. She is now facing 4 counts of assault and battery by means of a dangerous weapon, 3 counts of assault by means of a dangerous weapon, and 1 count of disorderly conduct. She was arraigned last week and released without bail. Her lawyer didn't immediately respond to a voicemail left on Wednesday.
Smart.
The Hampton County Sheriff's Office said its civil process division typically serves hundreds of eviction notices each year. Never, in all my years of leading the Hampton County Sheriff's Civil Process Division here, have I seen something like this, said Robert Hoffman, Chief Deputy of the Civil Process Division, in a statement. I'm just thankful no one died because bee allergies are serious.
Sure.
I hope that these out-of-county protesters will reconsider using such extreme measures in the future because they will be charged and prosecuted.
Again, nothing on like why they were performing the eviction, what's going on there.
Yeah, I need more details.
I need backstory to figure out whose side I'm on. It's not the cop side, but, you know.
We are always prepared for protests when it comes to evictions, but a majority of the groups who protest understand that we are just doing our statutory duty in accordance with the state law, said Sheriff Nick Cucci. But this woman who
Won't
traveled
get you
here
off a war crime, buddy.
Put our lives in danger as several of the staff, blah, 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 blah. It really doesn't say anything more. That's really pretty much the whole story.
Like if it was a tax lien, right? More power to her.
Coming up, we'll talk about baristas, bikini baristas in Everett. More Free Talk Live is on the way.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 15th through the 18th for the 7th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out in 2022. For 2023, we're going back to where it all started, the weekend before PorcFest. ForkFest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 15th through the 18th. You can find out more at the unofficial website forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the ForkFest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the ForkFest forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there June 15th through the 18th. forkfest.party. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. Do you prefer to listen to Free Talk Live on your schedule on demand? You can find the link to our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com, which features the daily digest of our radio show 7 days a week. Just drop our RSS feed into your favorite podcast client or subscribe to us on the large platforms if you prefer, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartMedia, Spotify, and Stitcher. All the links are at feeds.freetalklive.com. If the daily digests aren't enough for you and you really don't want to miss a moment of Free Talk Live, you can always sign up for our AMPS Patreon at amps.freetalklive.com for just $5 a month, and you'll get the full radio show without recorded commercials. Plus, you'll help us advertise, market, promote, and support Free Talk Live. That's amps.freetalklive.com to join AMPS, or feeds.freetalklive.com to get our main podcast, or find us on the major podcast platforms. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
And we're back.
Before we go on, I do want to say thank you to a person who calls himself Carbage Man. That's right. I'm saying thank you to Carbage Man. Not Garbage Man with a G, but C. Carbage Man.
Smelly Steve the Carbage Man.
Carbage Man is a silver level amplifier, and that means that he contributes $5 a month to the Free Talk Live AMPS program. You can find out all about the AMPS program over at amps.freetalklive.com. What the AMPS program is a way for you to help this radio show that you're listening to get on more radio stations and help us promote and support us. If you enjoy the topics, if you enjoy the hosts, the co-hosts, and the fact that we're on 7 days a week, that we are literally the only live radio call-in show that comes to you with the perspective of freedom, peace, prosperity, and liberty, then please consider becoming an amplifier over at amps.freetalklive.com. There's some perks that you get. It's a Patreon-type setup, so there's different levels of things and some little gifts that you get for your contribution. But that's not why you should contribute. You should contribute because you believe in liberty and spreading the message. Thank you again, Carbage Man, for your contribution. We appreciate you. All right. So with this article from Reason, I know a little bit about this particular topic because I used to live in the Seattle, Washington area. There's a town just north of the Seattle area called Everett, and that's where this takes place. The headline reads, Bikini Baristas Win Lawsuit Over Unconstitutional Dress Code. And we'll talk more about that in just a second. But first, let's go to George, who's calling from California. George, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, how you doing tonight?
We're good. What's on your mind?
I'm 78 years old. I've called about 1 million times to lots of different radio stations, and you guys are the first ones that allowed me to talk. And I had to jump away and go eat my pork chop dinner from my wife and mother-in-law. Sorry about that.
I hope it was delicious.
But we were talking about, yeah, sure. We were talking about the government wasting somebody, getting rid of somebody. And so, I was over in Vietnam for 3 years, and I hated it every minute I was there, but I loved being in the Army. And then somebody told me, read the Pentagon Papers. if you want to know what the government's up to.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it's been a lot of years since that happened, but I read it. And if the government wants you to go away, you can disappear in minutes, and nobody will ever know what happened to you. If the government puts the dime on you, you're the guy gone. And these guys were talking about, could they do it? They do it all the time.
Yeah. In fact, I had an article for yesterday that talks about Guantanamo Bay and the fact that it's still open, and there's 36 people that are still there. One guy apparently they're going to let one more guy go.
One more guy, because he's the oldest one there.
Right, yeah.
17 years, finally released, no charges filed.
Yeah, but they in that article, they do talk about how they literally would bag somebody's head in the middle of town, toss him in a van, and then transport him off to Guantanamo Bay without any sort of trial, without any sort of accusations, without any recourse for whoever was kidnapped and taken away, and then held for 20 years or so.
Because if they brought him to America, they would be, granted American-style constitutional justice.
Right.
But no, so they keep them offshore.
It's not to let them into the United States.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're right. Even within the United States, the CIA it's been documented that they've done baggings of people, and they've taken
but then they take them out.
Yeah.
They take them out of the country, so that they don't have to prosecute under American laws.
Or they take them out of and they disappear.
Right.
You guys haven't been watching the news, then. You don't know that the worst organization in the United States now is the FBI.
Oh no, we've been watching the news.
Yeah.
That's your domestic terrorist. CIA is your international terrorist.
Right. The FBI is in the U.S. and you're right, Richie.
Yeah. They can if they want to be nice about it, they can take you to court, and they go to their judges and their prosecutors, and if you don't have the bucks to get a big boy in there, there's dust under the carpet. Yeah.
What 97% prosecution rate?
Yep.
Conviction rate.
That's just the prosecution rate. Try on a conviction rate,
Yeah, that's what
they don't mess up. They don't mess up. They've got these judges where they just help them, man.
Yep.
I mean, until for 2 years ago, I would have said one of the better units in the United States is the FBI. But then Brandon got in there with his boys and started stirring the pot. And man, I'll tell you, it's terrible for a patriot like I am to
So you missed the part where the other side was doing it.
Oh, yeah, that could be, yeah.
No, it definitely was. It's the land of the free, the land of the fee, the home of the slave, and justice for all who can afford it. Thank you for the call, George. We appreciate it.
Good old American patriot who voted Republican and can't understand why the Democrats are doing what they're doing and how the FBI got off the rails all of a sudden.
Yeah, it was not all of a sudden.
I know.
It's been there. I'm just talking to the listening audience. It's not necessarily directed at you. I just want to talk about bikini baristas now.
Please.
Because we teased it, and so I feel like we should talk about it. Bikini baristas win lawsuit over unconstitutional dress code.
Sounds like some chicks just didn't want to go to work.
A federal court says the city's dress code for scantily clad coffee servers is unconstitutional. The judge ruled that by targeting women's attire, the dress code violates the Equal Protection Clause of the U.S. Constitution. But the law does not violate the First Amendment, he ruled, nor does criminalizing the baring of female breasts but not male breasts count as an unconstitutional violation. The case comes out of Everett, Washington, Everett, where drive-up shacks featuring bikini baristas are popular. And yes, they are. They're very popular. In 2017, Everett passed a law prohibiting quick-serve food and drink peddlers from showing off certain body parts, including their stomachs, their backs, below the shoulder blades, and the top 3 inches of the legs below the buttocks. The city didn't even pretend to tie the law to food safety, instead citing concerns about potential exploitation of women and adverse impacts upon minors.
No, they just hate fun.
Yep.
They do hate
You just
fun.
hate women.
Curmudgeons.
A group of bikini baristas working sued, calling it a matter of women's rights. In addition to instituting a dress code for baristas, the law expanded the city's definition of lewd conduct to include any exposure of more than half of the part of the female breast located below the top of the areola.
How do you? So they're gonna measure that?
Yeah, so they've got like boob measuring police out there with their taking photos and.
I'm sure
tape
you've seen
measures.
the old timey pictures of the beach police, right, measuring the women's.
No,
bathing.
I actually haven't.
Man.
Yeah.
Okay, you got to find one of those. The cops would go around with rulers to measure how long the bathing suit was.
Yeah, and if it wasn't long
Reminds
enough,
me of like middle school. It's like put your hands down to your side. Your shorts are too short.
Yep.
My arms are just long.
so
Wingspan doesn't count.
Yeah, so they want to, basically measure, the exposure of a woman's breast, and they created a new crime called facilitating lewd conduct to target the owners of bikini barista establishments. In 2017, a U.S. district judge said the city could not enforce the law as the case was playing out.
Nice.
The city appealed, and the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit Court reversed course, holding in 2019 that the lower court had been wrong. The Ninth Circuit rejected the argument that the law violates the barista's First Amendment right to free expression and lifted the injunction, meaning the ban is back on while the lawsuit proceeds in court, noted some guy at Reason. Now a judge has finally ruled on the merits of the case. In an October 19th opinion, U.S. District Court Judge Ricardo Martinez held that Everett's dress code is unconstitutional because it violates the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution. So
they're going to rewrite the code that the top of the male breast cannot be shown above 3 inches above the areola.
I think that's what they're getting at here. Is that it's unconstitutional because it targets women specifically.
Okay.
So Martinez rejected the barista's argument that the dress code violated their rights, and he let the city's expanded definition of lewd conduct and criminalization ruling okay to the city's criminalization of exposure or touching of women's breasts, but not of men's.
I'm pretty sure even if you expand it to men, you're going to run into the same problem.
The court finds that the city of Everett has met its burden of proving an exceedingly persuasive justification for treating the public exposure of bare breasts by females and males differently in the ordinance, and that this is substantially related to the important governmental interest of protecting the public sensibilities of the city of Everett.
Any man dressing in a manner where he's exposing the top 3 inches of his breast or the bottom 3 inches of his leg below his buttocks probably self-identifies as a woman to begin with.
Yeah. I mean, how about just let the market decide, right?
Right? Clearly, they've decided they like it.
If I want to go to like a regular-ass coffee shop, I'll go. If I want to go to a bikini barista coffee shop, I'll go to that one. Like, let me decide. I'm an adult.
Pay extra for the cream.
We are out of time. Thank you to all of the callers. Thank you to Richie Rich and Nikki, my co-hosts tonight. Peace.
Gold and silver. You can own the most stable assets in recorded history with BullionMax.com. Buy direct from BullionMax.com without talking to a salesperson, and your precious metals shipped fully insured directly to your home. Free Talk Live can get you their silver starter kit at employee pricing. Just go to BullionMax.com/FTL. It includes 5 ounces of the most desirable silver products plus a free gold bag. This offer is limited to 1 per household, so get yours now. Go to BullionMax.com/FTL.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you